Happy Friday, SMITE fans, and welcome to another day of SMITE Esports. We're going to be starting off our day back in the SMITE Challenger Circuit and back over in the European region. We had 2 sets yesterday. We'll have our third and final set of this phase today, and what an important one it is going to be. The Gilded Gladiators and the Styx Ferrymen facing off. But I can't do this kind of stuff alone. I'm J-Mac. I got Mifflin joining me on the desk to help me out for the morning. We're going to be jumping into the EU SCC. It's going to be a lot of fun to kick things off. Then we'll jump into the SPL later on. But this is an important match, Mifflin. These two teams fighting for that final spot to stay in the top 4.
Yeah, really excited. And I would have expected these two teams both to have made their way into the top 4. So better believe it's going to be a contentious match we've got coming up, man. I mean, you've got the Styx Ferrymen with all this talented roster behind them, the Gilded Gladiators as well, plenty of competitive pedigree. Let's just get into it. Let's just go.
Yeah, we're going to definitely get into that very shortly. But as you can see, we had Hex Mambo go 2-1 against the Aru Scorpions yesterday, as well as the Highland Ravens in a 2-1 against the Niflheim Wargs. And all of our sets yesterday went the full distance. We'll see if our matches today start by going the full 3. And with as close of a matchup as the Gilded Gladiators and the Styx Ferrymen are, got to imagine this is going to be a very heated set between the two. As mentioned, a lot of talented players on this roster, but on both of these rosters out here, and looking at the standings, is Styx Ferrymen currently in that 4th seed. Gilded Gladiators fighting for that chance to potentially knock them down and send them into the relegation portion.
Yeah, if memory serves, it's just all about head-to-head once they are tied in win-loss. So if the Gilded Gladiators take this one, head-to-head up against the Styx Ferrymen should bump them to 4th seed. If memory serves, but my math has been wrong in the past, don't trust me too much. We leave those up to the admins. I'm just a caster.
Yeah, they are definitely the ones who do all the mental math, and not even the mental math, just do the actual math to make sure that it all works out properly for them. But Gilded Gladiators, I mean, you look at the talent on that roster, lestimics, MastkiII, Sap7, Dazer, Totti, most of the original roster of this one, but a couple of core members have changed out there, that being Sap and Dazer. They've changed since the origin, at least of this team coming into this year. Those 2 members have changed up. In fact, one of their players, Rottwen, is now over on the Styx Ferrymen, joined by BeAzrael, iceice, GunTTeRR, and StreakUp. So a slightly different look at both of these teams. We're going to see how those things have meshed out in the picks and bans. Game number 1 between the Gilded Gladiators and the Styx Ferrymen are ready to go. And in the USCC, we've been seeing some shakeups and some kind of change-ups compared to what we're normally used to seeing over in that SPL meta, Mifflin.
Yeah, it's just a completely different meta. I wouldn't even call it changes, right? They're not taking bits and pieces from the SPL and saying, all right, we like this, but we don't like this. It is just different. The bans completely different. The top pick priority order completely different as well. So if you guys at home have only watched the SPL in the past, be ready for a bit of a eclectic style of SMITE, something that is new and exciting, at least to you guys. We've been around for a while. We've been watching the whole phase. We know what these guys are up to. Uller, Kali bans, you might be thinking to yourself, man, been a while since we've seen that in the SPL. That's like every week. That's every day here.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's really changed from SPL to SCC with the actual like pick and ban priority has been this Huang. A couple of SPL teams have kind of picked him occasionally top 3, sometimes bottom 2, but it's really only in the SCC that we're actually seeing ban priority towards this god. We saw it yesterday with the NA sets, and now even with the EU, Huang is constantly being banned away. Uller and Mercury will join those bans for the Gilded Gladiators. Styx Ferrymen will stick with the Kali and the Baba Yaga, another mage that's been very popular in the SCC.
AMC to round out the bans for the Styx Ferrymen. So a whole lot of hyper carry potential taken off the board by both of these teams. Normally we'd be talking about, oh hey, Yamoja's still open, probably just going to insta-lock that. But generally the USCC has kind of forewent with this god. They're done with it instead. The main guardian that we have been seeing is this Fafnir. Seems like auto attack compositions really are just the flavor of the month right now, especially across the pond. The ability to rotate in towards these objectives, look at them at around that 15-minute mark, generally where we start to see those first gold furies go down. The ability to really quickly transition yourself off the back of a team fight win in towards Fire Giant. Fafnir really facilitates a lot of that, so long as you've built auto attackers around them. So now the Styx Ferrymen in a position to try and take away some key components of this Gladiator's upcoming draft.
Namely in the Nemesis and the Jing as being picked up, which might seem a little strange actually to me that Jing is the highest priority, because as of late and for most of the history of the USCC, all of this season at the least, Heimdall has kind of been that #1 hunter. So
Freya.
it's a little strange to me to see that Jing is being prioritized above him, but maybe not so strange considering the performance that Jing has had over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Jing is still certainly one of the favorites in the USCC, but you're right to say that Heimdall is just straight up the favorite, namely StreakUp, someone who loves to go towards that pick, but he's not here, so we haven't got the Heimdall, at least not just yet. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some ban presence towards it in the next phase. Freya and Osiris for the top 3 of the Gladiators. That is a whole lot of early damage from both of those picks. I know, it feels weird to say, right?
It's so strange.
But Freya is just good at just about every single portion of the game, especially with this New Age Conduit Gem build, really boosting her ability to clear out these waves. Osiris, some flex potential. In the SEC, a little bit more often than the SPL, we will see this god taken over towards the soul lane, but for the most part, should be able to establish pressure anywhere he goes. Generally, I prefer to see it in the jungle, though. Just Mannequin Scepter, Osiris early game. It is just incredibly strong.
Yeah, but we've been seeing a little bit less of the Mannequin Scepter, more of that Eye of the Jungle kind of start, especially with these Osiris and Erlong Shens that have been coming into the jungle. So we'll see maybe if this one goes over to the jungle, get that Mannequin's Golden Blade start out. But as far as the bans are concerned, Merlin and Hell, maybe a little surprising to see Hell make her way through there as far as a ban is concerned. Now on the opposite side, Khepri and Iset get banned away by the Gilded Gladiators, taking a couple shots, at least with that Khepri over at Rottwen. If there's any team that knows how to deal with a support player, it's going to be the Gilded Gladiators against their former support Rottwen, making sure to ban away some of his top picks.
Well, it goes both ways, right? Rottwen should understand exactly what the Gilded Gladiators, and even more of them, by the way, as he's the only member, previous member of the Gladiators, now over the Ferrymen, should be acting as like a double agent. You know, let your team know, hey, these are the picks that they really like, these are the types of compositions that we were building previous, and it is pretty clear that the Gilded Gladiators have stuck with their guns. This is something that I'm very used to seeing from them, even in phases of past. We've had opportunities to speak with their coach, and MastkiII has gone on record as well, just saying, hey, these are the styles of draft we like to play. Some early pressure at certain portions, but always get yourself some sort of late game team fight scaling. They've got it. Early pressure from the Osiris, Dazer, and then you've got Persephone, Freya, and Fafnir to make up the core of your late game. A very clean composition from the Gladiators. Whereas the Styx Ferrymen similarly have got a good deal of late game team fight presence. I feel like their initiation is very strong,
child,
especially around this Ganesha, Bellona. Very good matchup into both Freya and Dazer. Dazer starts her stim, disarmor, all of a sudden she's got to wait for that to wear off. Freya as well, 2 stims, all of her damage comes from auto attacks. Doesn't exactly work if you've got block stacks and a disarm, so Bellona very strong into this Gladiators draft. But the only concern for the Styx Ferrymen in my mind is, can you make it through that early game? Because when you look at it, the Gladiators have got a couple of high pressure picks. Styx Ferrymen, it's really up to this Nemesis, I suppose. Unless this Bellona's doing something crazy and like maybe going into the jungle, and then you got Nemesis solo, but we'll see.
We'll have to see exactly how it breaks out in game number 1, Gilded Gladiators versus the Styx Ferrymen. Let's jump right in and see if the Styx Ferrymen can make it to that late game that you're talking about, Mifflin, because I've got to agree with you here. There's a lot of pressure that comes out on the side, on any of the lanes for the Gilded Gladiators, and then you look over at the Styx Ferrymen, and I mean, Tiamat's not really going to get you a whole lot in the early game as far as that mid is concerned. We know that Jing Wei's not looking to try and get an insane amount of pressure, so maybe it will just come down to iceice and BeAzrael. And that's a Heavenly Wings pop by Dazer and Totti, really just trying to zoom to get to that purple buff and get to lane as quick as possible.
Yeah, whenever you've got a Freya on your team, getting to that wave first is just so important because you really only have that first rotation of pulse to establish your pressure. If you want to be able to start rotating towards neutral camps, I suppose that's exactly what you need to do. But you do have to hedge your bet saying, hey, our Heavenly's going to be down for a little while, but 100 seconds. Gotta hope a jungler doesn't show up in that time.
For now, wave pressure will go over to Totti and Dazer. They'll hit that level 2 first, and they'll have their pressure now in that duo lane. And I'm taking a look over at the jungle. It's going to be an earlier rotation from iceice to get towards that mid lane. Zap will need to be a little careful, but he's got some partner over in the jungle. In fact, we did see a jump over the wall by MastkiII to try and get in against GunTTeRR and iceice. A lot of damage thrown back over to MastkiII, put down to critical health.
And now he's going to spend the next couple of moments resustaining. Has health pots and multi-pots, so should be able to heal up pretty quickly. There is an interesting decision to make for junglers in that if you get dropped this low this quickly, might be worth your time to just head back towards base. But with the camps as they are and iceice playing as aggressively as he is, maybe forced to stick around. MastkiII's got to play safe here. He's pretty far up.
Wrap around by iceice. MastkiII not targeted by the minions yet. Ice does manage to get the slice and dice, but a teleport over the wall by Mask will get him to the camps. Meanwhile, Zap under fire by iceice in the lane. MastkiII will be fine. He'll be able to clear out these mid-harpies, so not the end of the world for him. Loses out a bit of HP and regens most of that back on the camp.
Yeah, head back to your back camps, resustain a bit more with that Bumba's Dagger. Seems like MastkiII has used all of his potions already. so no more HP to play with in the back pocket, but similarly iceice has not gotten the HP pots either, just mana potions for him. A curious selection for junglers. Feels like you're not really the most mana starved, especially on a Nemesis, but I suppose not having Bumba as you're concerned about the ability to resustain. With that said, the jungle pretty good for MP5, so I'll keep my eyes on it. I'm not going to overanalyze a mana pot. I've already done it, haven't I?
A little bit.
A little bit.
But it's okay. I mean, it's the early stages of the game, and this is where we get to do typically the most analysis for the EU SCC, because this is where typically the least action will end up happening for these teams and for this scene in general. We did see a rotation by MastkiII to help get that blue buff for lestimics, and he'll go back and grab the speed buff and make his way back to base. And it seems that MastkiII is going for a little bit of a slower startup build. Transcendence seems to be the route for the jungler. Yeah,
Transcendence is just really popular on Dazer. You can go towards either Jotuns in the next slot or Hydras. Pretty often it is that Hydras just for a little bit more CDR plus the percentage penetration. Really synergizes well with the rest of Daji's kit. Still getting as much power early on, pretty strong, and then it still is a decent CDR infusion. So make no mistake, MastkiII will be incredibly strong with this build, but certainly is a good deal slower. Won't have as much jungle clear power, especially compared to anybody with a Golden Blade. Nemesis with Golden Blade amongst those, very good at clearing out that jungle. So I'm expecting a slightly slower pace from the Gilded Gladiators, but that's what we've seen from them in the past. They really do just like that team fight.
Yeah, they really do kind of bounce between their styles, whether they want to play those super aggressive early comps and pick up gods like Fenrir, or play maybe a little bit more towards the late game. And kind of speaking on that late game, and this might be early to talk about sieging, but a little bit worried about the Gilded Gladiators and their siege potential on towers and phoenixes, because they are lacking a traditional hunter, some standard range physical damage to really try and deal with those structures.
Yes, it could be a little bit difficult, but they make up for it in initiation. I feel like this is a team composition that is more so, hey, we want to get the kills, then we'll look at the structures, and they've got great CC cores, good DPS burn to make that happen.
Fight in mid and a fight in left lane. The Dharmic Pillars drop down. Totti will return some fire over against StreakUp. StreakUp completely out of mana as far as this fight is concerned, so no more for the Styx Ferrymen, and low health bars for the Gilded Gladiators mean that they can't change out. Meanwhile, iceice loses out on his beads in the mid lane after the Palau came up from MastkiII.
So already stripping away the beads from iceice means that you need to make use of it over the next 150 seconds. MastkiII already making use of the TKO by looking towards this blue buff. Seems like invade successful rather, from the Gilded Gladiators. lestimics gonna have a CDR advantage as well as a mana sustain advantage for the next couple of moments. The Styx Ferrymen, they're doing a good job though, even with these invades coming through, even with the pressure established by MastkiII in mid. Gold still largely equalized, experience the exact same as well. We'll see it start to build up slightly in favor of the Gilded Gladiators over the next 20 to 30 seconds. Invades are really bad. They feel really bad because you're like going to a back camp and you get like 6 gold. And then you go to your own camps and that's where the lead establishes. It's just about denying that farm rather than building it yourself. So every time you see an invade, consider it just like a delayed time bomb on your gold lead.
We'll see Dazer make his rotation in towards mid, starting out with the Gauntlet of Thebes for himself. Meanwhile, opposite side, Rottwen, because he's dealing with 2 big magical carries, has elected to start with the Heart Ward Amulet, something we don't see quite as often anymore, but has been popping up when we see these multi-magical style of carry compositions. An interesting... Actually, not interesting at all. Not really. I don't know why I thought so. Iqbal Death Toll over on StreakUp. I don't know why I thought that was interesting for a moment, but it does say that kind of, you know, we've been talking about how that feels like an early boxing style of build, but Jingwei not typically much of an early boxer.
No, and you're really sacrificing a good deal of sustain because you want to get that crit online as quickly as possible. StreakUp, that is. So wouldn't be surprised if it's Wind Demon in that next slot, just reliant on Death Toll for self-sustain, whereas Freya on the other end just going to have a whole lot of healing coming her way. All the rings, you can go towards Typhons as well. She really does synergize with that style of build. So if you could see a lead for StreakUp, maybe then you get to play aggressively in this lane, only if you're able to get crit before TottiGR gets over towards his second ring. If it remains at an even pace, you just gotta think the Freya is gonna quickly scale, and it's gonna be very difficult for this Jingwei to look for any sort of boxing potential, but if you're playing a god that can't really box, might as well be the Jingwei. Just fly back in a lane if you lose out on an exchange and keep farming up.
That might have been the most carefree gank that I've ever seen lestimics just casually stroll away from. You know, iceice and BeAzrael start wailing away. He pops his tether and then just stands there and says, okay, I want you to fight me. I want you to try and fight me. And they decide, we're not going to. Sends an ultimate onto Rottwen in the mid lane. A lot of damage thrown towards the Ganesha. He's only about at half HP right now. Dazer in that dragon form gets some good damage out as well, but no kill onto Rottwen. Still just a little too tanky, especially with that hard port.
Yeah, it seems like the Gladiators didn't realize they had gone for such a massive magic defense and fusion so early on. Really is a good pickup for Rottwen. In the dual lane, double magical, you've got Dazer and Totti on the Fafnir and Freya, and then you rotate back towards mid, and for the most part, it will be Sap and Dazer together, both magical again. So any other pickup there, you're probably just dead. If it's a Sovereignty, if it's a Thieves that isn't stacked up just yet, pretty likely Rottwen falls down. Heart Ward already paying for itself.
iceice hit by the banish out of Totti. The shield gonna reflect a little bit of that damage and keep iceice from falling too low up against this Freya. And is a hastened ring to start out by Totti. We've been seeing kind of a bounce between which ring to start. Usually it's been that ring of Hecate, but we've been seeing this hastened ring kind of pop up every so often as well.
It just gives you a whole lot of early kill pressure. I mean, the ability to force these fights with hastened ring is so incredibly high. Already has the movement speed and fusion on it, so you should be able to chase out StreakUp regardless of applying that slow, but also with the haste effect, should be very nice. Totti, though, stuck in his tower, utilizing that haste just for strafe, but still not really winning out on this fight. Totti gonna spend a little while resustaining.
Yeah, only has that natural lifesteal to himself from his passive to try and keep alive. 2v2 in the mid once again, but now it's 3 as iceice is rotated in. Dharmic Pillars are good. Ultimate from Sap to lock in 3, but GunTTERR will dive in under the tier 1 tower and pick up first blood for Styx Ferrymen, but MastkiII has shown up. A good hammer out of Dazer will slow down iceice. I thought MastkiII might have gotten a little bit more aggressive, but will not. It's just the Ferryman with the first kill.
Yeah, if MastkiII had Blink, maybe a Blink forward and a Pal so you could pull them into tower. With Sap 7 already dead, Dazer does not have enough damage output to confirm the kills with the help of Pal, so MastkiII just holds on to his cooldown because he's got beats. If he just blinks in, you're pulling him into the tower, or at least forcing out those relics every single time. I think it might have been value for him just to check whether or not the Styx Ferrymen were going to put respect onto that CC. Stripping away beads from GunTTERR or iceice both would have been incredibly valuable, would have removed the capacity for the Styx Ferrymen to continually do what we just saw, diving Sap 7 into the tower. But instead, a much slower, resigned pace.
Totti does find the banish onto Rottwen. StreakUp. Thought for a moment StreakUp would have dove in with Rottwen, but decided to go back to the wave. Farm maybe a little bit more important than the fight at this point, so Totti will get to sustain up in the lane and clear out his wave. Meanwhile, grouped up by the Styx Ferrymen around his Gold Fury Pit has spotted out Sap. Sap eats about half his HP and damage. iceice slows down Dazer, and the Bone Rush will get some good damage back, but now with Totti rotating his way on over, we'll make this a 3 versus 4, and MastkiII will even that out. Ultimate does hit StreakUp in the backline. Rottwen low. Rottwen stuck inside the cripple field. He will be taken down by MastkiII. MastkiII pulls in only 1 with the Pal out, but StreakUp does have the airstrike to find his way on out. Meanwhile, Dazer goes down at the end, and Sap 7 will close out the kill on StreakUp.
Yeah, Sap was ready for that airstrike. iceice, is he ready for the damage output? TottiGR eats the Minotaur and decides, yeah, maybe I don't want to stick around, uses that beads defensively. iceice still showing some presence, though. Has to respect the damage output, has to respect the fact that MastkiII is nearby. Styx Ferrymen got a ward on this purple, but has it not spotted Mast? iceice is stepping up.
There's no way that iceice didn't know that he was there. Shield comes out, and iceice can dash himself on away. Maybe he didn't know he was there and was just trying to bait anything out. Maybe, I guess, just recognizing that both of them didn't have ultimates up at the time?
I think maybe he was just like behind the wall. Sap 7 would love to get it behind the wall. GunTTERR getting real aggressive. Devour finishes him off, and you better believe Dazer does not have the damage to chase this one out. So a clean invade from the Styx Ferrymen and push that kill lead slightly in their favor. Slight lead seems to be the theming of this one, as experience and gold only slightly separated between these two teams. But I'm liking the pacing so far, and it's reminiscent of what we had seen yesterday. It used to be, man, 0 kills, 15 some odd minutes of the game, first kill at around 16, 17 minutes in the EU SEC. We're at like 5 and 10. That's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely been picking up the pace at least a little bit as far as the USCC is concerned. We haven't been seeing the 40-minute games just yet. We've been seeing closer to around what we saw, what was it, like 2 20 or 22-minute games yesterday?
Wild.
Which is absolutely insane when you think about the pacing of EU SCC in general.
SMITE in general.
SMITE,
now.
Yeah, I mean, even in the SPL, we're still seeing on average 25-plus minute games, so seeing games go that quickly is is definitely going to be an eye-opener to see what is capable of some of these teams out there. Gilded Gladiators, though, still willing to fight back. SMITE been the main person under fire in this game. There's been multiple ganks over towards his lane, and we saw the invade by GunTTERR moments ago that ended in a kill.
Yeah, some pretty significant power spikes hit as well. Only Hunters for lestimics. MastkiII just finished up his Hydras and finished stacking that Transcendence, so significant power spike there for the jungler of the Gilded Gladiators. On the other side, iceice has really got his damage with Stone cutting. MastkiII wants a little bit more.
Rottwen will get pulled in by the Pao-Lao and didn't elect to use his beads at any point during that fight. SMITE will go down to StreakUp, and MastkiII with 1,000 cuts gets some good damage. A stun by Dazer hits 2. iceice hit by that Valkyrie's Discretion. One more auto is all that's needed, and Totti will close out the kill. StreakUp, half HP, needs to dash his way on out, and will do so. The Gilded Gladiators pick up a 2-for-1 trade.
Yeah, this was the concern. You allow this Freya to get over to second ring, and she's there. She's at nuclear status. The damage output just incredibly high. Only at the tier 1 and tier 2.
No,
StreakUp.
Dazer.
Are you okay? No, Dazer's just dead. All right,
no,
cool.
He jumped a little too close to the tower line, ended up sitting inside and de-transformed, and that's just an easy kill. GunTTERR needs a couple more shots to kill Totti, but now that MastkiII is here, might not be so easy. 1,000 cuts, and then they got another couple autos will do it. GunTTERR can't find the last hit. Yes, he can, right at the tail end. But StreakUp able to close out another kill, and now make it a 2-for-1 for Styx Ferrymen.
That dot damage from GunTTERR, just enough to finish off Totti. I wonder if Totti had just stuck around and kept sinking in those auto attacks, whether or not he would have had the sustain to survive. I suppose has to run away, scared of the Devour that could come from GunTTERR. And an easy turnaround for the Styx Ferrymen. Yet again, as you said, just at the tail end of that engagement, the very last couple seconds of it, able to slightly pull it in their favor. BeAzrael, SMITE's been under the target of aggression this whole game.
Does find the leap away after the ultimate drops down, but that's a level 14 Bellona chasing down our level 12 mid laner of the Gilded Gladiators. Early rotation by the solo, and that's the first time that we've seen anything out of the solo laners so far, and well, at least it comes up as a net positive by taking away the mid laner's ult.
It's going to be the last thing we see from him for a while,
yeah,
I'm thinking.
Probably.
But, look, we're still 5 or 6 levels away.
This.
Yeah, this, I mean, sure.
We
can watch it. Sick fight.
Nice.
Good damage output. Look, all of a sudden, this Osiris is feeling pretty unkillable. BeAzrael, not quite at that unkillable status, but getting pretty close as he starts to finish off that enchanted Kusari. So, the Styx Ferrymen and the Gilded Gladiators have some good frontline bolstering in their future once these solo laners do decide to rotate out. We're rapidly approaching that 15-minute mark. Generally, that's when these first couple of neutral objectives start to go down. Both team comps very good at just burning away the objectives. Neither one really the greatest confirmation, though, on the objective itself. So imagine Pyromancer is probably the first one we see grouped up on. And already significant grouping from both teams on the right side of the map. lestimics very deep.
Solo laners aren't going to come out of their lane, but everybody can come over to party in the solo lane instead. Dazer does find a stun onto Rottwen, but not much more follow-up beyond there. Just a disengage for the Gilded Gladiators, or maybe a re-engage. Palo by MastkiII will find Rottwen. Rottwen again holding on to those beats until the end. It's going to cost him his life. MastkiII comes up with the first kill of the fight, but an Eagles rally from BeAzrael will find a couple. MastkiII in danger. The bludgeon slams through, but it's going to be the tether that stuns him out. iceice on the move, needs a couple of shots. Take down MastkiII, will find him and be able to make it a 1-for-1 trade.
Dazer, no leap, but the Styx Ferrymen have already gotten their target. Rottwen for MastkiII, a great trade to the Chaos team. The Gilded Gladiators still showing a good deal of presence on this side of the map. I'm keeping my eyes on TottiGR, who has started his rotation. Seems as if the Gladiators concerned about the Ferrymen's ability to just go ahead and pull out that Pyromancer. Instead, the Ferrymen trying their best to clear out the entirety of that right side jungle. iceice just getting that speed buff a little too early. Sap, no leap?
No leap for the moment. Or maybe just holding on to it. Does get some good return fire on iceice, but GunTTERR will go under the tower. Sap as good as dead as GunTTERR takes him down once again. The mid laner of the Gilded Gladiators falls. Good lord.
Yeah, I understand. Because that was a massive choke from SMITE. I don't know why he's just leaping through the jungle. I mean, you're probably not expecting iceice to be in your speed buff, but the amount of time you saved walking to lane as opposed to the risk you created is just not a great trade.
Totti saves the beads, uses the ultimate to fire a few shots back at StreakUp. Totti holding on to that relic, making sure that he'll have it for the next team fight to come up, though. Good patience from him, recognizing that not a whole lot of immediate kill pressure onto him, and having that Valkyrie's discretion as soon as he lands in order to be able to get back towards safety. But questionable decisions really across for both teams. Sap either holding on to that leap or using it aggressively to move through the jungle. And then I just got to point out the amount of times we've seen Rottwen either just completely not use his beads or use them super late in these fights.
Look, these supports are just not used to having them, all right? They're so used to having the shells and the heavenlies and the blinks. They don't have beads like in the muscle memory. So I'm not going to put too much on a Rottwen. I will. He's been late on every beads, or just hold on to him when he could have survived some of these engagements. But I already made an excuse, so I'm going to stick with it. Not his fault. Support players are just selfless, and he's not used to having this selfish relic.
Well, you would just pop a shell in that case if you're getting pulled to give yourself a little bit of an extra shield. I'm not gonna make that kind of excuse.
Well, I don't know. His teammates weren't nearby, and you only want to shell your teammates. If I see you solo shelling yourself, I hate you.
Nah, if it's the difference between life or death, and I got a shell just to get that extra 200 HP to get out, I'll solo shell myself as support sometimes.
Well, now he's got both, shell and beads, so I think it's going to be
he's got no excuse.
Yeah, a good while until we see another just easy pickup for MastkiII. A lot of presence on the right side of the map yet again. lestimics trying to get involved in some of these team fights, but no neutral objective pool from either team means that there's really nothing that's going to pull either team into a team fight in the jungle. Just poking and prodding, looking for your pick. Neither one of these squads really in a position where they're confident enough to look towards the objective.
Pressure from all of this fighting has netted the Styx Ferrymen about a 2,000 gold lead over the Gilded Gladiators, and that's with no neutral objectives and only a single tier 1 tower that's been taken. So neutral farm goes away the Ferrymen. The number of invades that the Gilded Gladiators had been doing earlier on definitely slowed down, and now we've seen numerous ones come from Styx Ferrymen to try and mitigate a lot of that.
We have. I'm seeing the most significant lead probably around that dual lane, nearly 2 levels up for StreakUp. Otherwise, you're about at parity across the map. The dual lane in general feeling pretty good for the Styx Ferrymen. But Totti again at 2-1 and 3, now with 3 rings finished. I feel like he still wins the majority of these fights. I realize StreakUp's got the Aussie, he's got his Wind Demon already, so a little bit of crit chance, but this Freya, for some reason, is just really spooky to deal with, and nobody from the Styx Ferrymen has made an attempt to deal with her. We've only seen TottiGR go down once, and it was off the back of Gilded Gladiators getting aggressive.
Dazer walks forward, finds a hammer on iceice. Some good return fire by SAP7. Not going to be too much more follow-up. Recognize that there are a few too many people around that red buff. Dazer and Sap will not push into enemy territory, as Sap has not even been safe in his own territory at this point. But an early Dragon transformation out of Dazer and a massive rotation by the Gilded Gladiators to start up this Gold Fury. Frenzy popped, and this Gold Fury will go down with no fight back from the Styx Ferrymen. Ultimate even used by Sap just to keep StreakUp out of the area.
Yeah, just don't walk in. Please, nobody be there, and if you are there, look, you're going to walk into some vines, and that's exactly why SAP7 uses that ultimate. Curious pacing to that Gold Fury, though. I realized lestimics had made the rotation, so I had figured we would see a team fight, but the commitment of Draconic Transformation from Dazer so early was just a massive vote of confidence, especially considering there was no ward on the Gold Fury for the Gilded Gladiators. MastkiII off the mark with his Powwow, iceice, able to avoid that with ease. Won't have to use either of his relics. And now Powwow going to be down for the next moment or so. Could give the Styx Ferrymen an opportunity to continue pushing forward.
We saw a little bit of a dive towards Sap, but right now it's a fight at the back Harpy camp. Dazer should have his leap to get out if it gets a little too dangerous, but won't need to use it just yet. lestimics rotates over. Pyromancer is up if the Styx Ferrymen want to go towards it, and they will, at least for now. Dharmic Pillar's available. They need a little bit of extra burn. Dazer is here. All you gotta do is block a hammer toss. There you go. No further Pyromancer threat, at least from the Gilded Gladiators, so Styx Ferrymen will pick up their own neutral objectives.
I think I would have liked to have seen the Styx Ferrymen force an even larger fight, maybe even potentially pull out the Fire Giant, because it's still 3 ultimates down for the Gilded Gladiators. Just now, SAP7 getting that Grasp of Death back, but Powwow down, Draconic Transformation down. At the time, Grasp of Death as well. Styx Ferrymen were in a pretty significantly advantageous position, even considering the fact that the Gilded Gladiators had not gone back to base to spend the gold that they had gotten from the Gold Fury. So the lead that you're seeing at the top of your screen was even larger in favor of the Styx Ferrymen at time of the engagement. But I suppose with the game as high stakes as it is right now, you really want to be able to move up into that top 4 seed. You really don't want to slip up on the last set of the phase. Take it a little bit slower, go for the more methodical style of play. Don't leave it up to any risk.
With that Pyromancer, at least For the Styx Ferrymen, able to bring themselves back to the 2,000 gold lead that they had earlier on. MastkiII does walk through the Fire Giant pit. He's standing on a ward. iceice knows that he is there. And it's a 3-man rotation over for MastkiII. Maybe just trying to force the Pal out, but iceice curiously will dash his way back. Maybe not knowing where any enemy team was at that time. Not willing to commit to dive too far into the jungle.
Yeah, and that damage output from iceice is incredibly high already. Hydra's putting in a whole lot of work. The Styx Ferrymen pull out the Fire Giant. It's burning pretty quick. Slow rotation for the Glads.
Dazer and lestimics are here, but the Fire Giant has not been leashed. Dazer gets knocked up inside the Fire Giant pit. The Fire Giant has been leashed now. BeAzrael in the backline dealing with Sap 7, a jump away from the bludgeon, but MastkiII is incredibly low on the left-hand side, but there's not any chase back from the Styx Ferrymen. Instead, as soon as everybody walked into the Fire Giant pit, they all disengaged.
Rottwen still holding on to that Dharmic Pillar, could turn this fight on its head. On the other side, Valkyrie's Discretion and Lord of the Afterlife still available to the Gilded Gladiators. The Styx Ferrymen use a whole lot in that engagement, trying to lock down the Gladiators. They had wanted to just pick up that kill. It was never really about the Fire Giant. Sure, they heat check it, but the second the Gladiators show up, it was a disengage, chase out. But looking at the relics and the ultimates as they stand, feels like the Styx Ferrymen use just a bit more.
Still have their fortifying shell from Rottwen, so if another fight does break out, maybe something needed now. Tower down, StreakUp does get hit by that Lord of the Afterlife, and he's gonna go down. No, he's not. Takes an extra second before so. And it's a 1-for-1 trade. Rottwen and BeAzrael are here. GunTTeRR on the way to at least alleviate some of the pressure in this right lane. Throw out some damage back against lestimics, but it's a very healthy Gilded Gladiators and a not so healthy Ferryman, especially with Sap on the way.
Sap 7 on the rotation in. iceice just revealed himself in mid, so numbers advantage to the Gilded Gladiators, at least for a moment. They're playing pretty far up. Thought we'd see a little bit more damage go his way. Instead, it's all about that Tier 1 tower, which will crumble.
Tier 1 for Tier 1, and a 1-for-1, so an even trade out for the teams in the solo lane. Well, now we will finally see GunTTeRR make his way back to base, picks up his Obsidian Shard on that back. And we were kind of wondering, you know, how long would it take this Tiamat to get online? We know what Tiamat can do in the late game, maybe a bit of a struggle in early. No struggle from GunTTeRR. He's been cruising the entire game.
He's been owning.
4-1-3. Definitely got to say that GunTTRR's been having a solid performance in game 1.
Top of the damage charts as well, getting active, a lot of early dives, a lot of early rotations over towards that duo lane, and now having ticked over to level 20, my man is on cruise control. There's not much else this Tiamat needs to concern himself with besides just landing the abilities. The build is there, the relics are there, the gold nearly there as well. So GunTTRR in a very good position for his team. Sap 7, on the other hand, 1-4, sure, an inverse of his opposition, but still certainly near the top of the damage charts. Build nearly at parity as well, starting to upgrade some of those relics, both beads and shell, on second tier. I would argue that we've seen a lot more from GunTTRR so far this game, but as far as output potential in this next team fight, I'd say there's a good deal of evenness between the two.
Got to put some respect on that Grasp of Death, being able to pull out some beads from people, maybe even grab a shell from Rottwen if somebody unfortunately gets caught inside the actual cage of that ultimate. I gotta imagine that GunTTRR's just waiting on a little bit more gold before he goes back to finish up that starter and that Gem of Focus. Typically the go-to when you do go down that Conduit Gem start towards that Tiamat. A little bit of a battle in the jungle. I'll favor at least iceice's health bar. lestimics, though, still very healthy on this Osiris. Won't be too deterred by the damage iceice threw out.
J-Mac, do you know of anyone that's like building Archmage's Gem consistently? My memory is fuzzy, but I'm struggling to think about it.
I can't think of anybody who has, even since the buff. And I thought with the buff we would have seen it more because it no longer procced off the minions. But we have seen a complete lack of this item. Maybe a Nuwa. This is about the only person I could think.
Yeah, Nuwa would make sense.
And that was, I remember when that item came out, it was the rise of Nuwa, the terror of Nuwa in every casual or ranked game. Oh my god, I'm getting hit by an Archmage proc and I'm losing like 800 health on her ultimate, but...
And now with Calamitous Rod, you'd think it would work. Maybe Nuwa needs to come back.
Maybe. We've seen a little bit of Nuwa as of recent, but still no Archmages. I'm very shocked we haven't seen that. Dazer going for, again, for another early transformation in that ultimate. Pyromancer goes to the Gilded Gladiators. A jump in against BeAzrael, but maybe not the ideal person to get that stun. BeAzrael is still very healthy. Rottwen not as much. Jumping Pillars, and the Sprue comes out as well as the cage from Sap. Rottwen losing a lot of HP, and Totti will put him down with the Valkyrie's Discretion. BeAzrael Half HP, Dazer even lower. Good stun to stop the bludgeon. Another
Good
stun
Lord.
to put the damage, but now it's an Eagles rally to get BeAzrael out. iceice in the back line needs a little bit more, but will not find it. lestimics puts him down, but GunTTERR and StreakUp return the shots back. And StreakUp with the airstrike will find the double.
StreakUp comes up massive for his team. Totti caught in no man's land, waiting for his cooldowns to come back up. Had they been available, probably does survive that engagement. 2 auto attacks would have put him in sustain range of that airstrike, but the Styx Ferrymen on the defensive are able to win out on the team fight. 3-2 still remaining on the map, and that's what the Gilded Gladiators going for the slow play on the left side. MastkiII taking a whole lot of damage. That should spell the end of the fight. No way this Daji tries to get involved again. The Trebuchet is putting in some work on that tier 2 tower in the duo, but the Gilded Gladiators just don't elongate that fight enough. When you've got the Trebuchet on the opposite side of the map, it's all about, hey, let's slow down the engagement. We're bleeding them out. The longer this goes, the better it is for us because the tower will eventually fall. But the Gilded Gladiators, off the back of an admittedly very good start to the engagement, TottiGR putting out nearly infinite damage. The second he was looked at, he died, but took a whole long time for the Styx Ferrymen to decide to look at him. I suppose get swept up in their own pace, overcommit, lose the engagement. Now the Styx Ferrymen on the faster respawn can start to move their way over towards this right side of the map. StreakUp heads over, clears out the Trebuchet, and head back to base. Jing just flies, so should be able to get to that Fire Giant pretty quickly. Do it all over again, but this time the Gilded Gladiators, no map state advantage.
This time the Styx Ferrymen have at least a Primal Fury buff, 1 stack of that, to start working on this Fire Giant. It was already burning quick earlier on, still hasn't hit that enhanced Fire Giant state just yet, so will still continue to burn just as quickly. GunTTERR will clear out the mid lane, while iceice stands around the Fire Giant pit. Only lestimics and MastkiII standing by. Dazer now on his way over. But that little team fight from earlier on, again, started out well for Gladiators. Went a little bit further south once StreakUp made his way in. MastkiII is going to notably be down his beats. Another 70 seconds till those are up. Lost them in an earlier mid lane skirmish. For now, Styx Ferrymen just throwing out some poke against the Gladiators, try to keep them back.
The Gilded Gladiators cannot walk in. It seems like the Styx Ferrymen's damage, specifically around GunTTERR, just enough. Dazer face checks the Fire Giant, realizes it's not pulled out just yet. Whole lot of posturing from both of these teams. Only one way to force an engagement is to create threat on the map. As of now, the Styx Ferrymen have not done a whole lot of that. That's allowed the Gladiators and MastkiII to go for this long flank.
Dazer gonna get silenced out by Rottwen. Dazer will have to jump himself away. He's taken a decent bit of poke, but can resustain with that coerce, with that green buff around his waist. A little bit of a pause in the action before we start jumping in towards this Fire Giant fight. 20 seconds until the enhanced Fire Giant is up. And it's been the target for both these teams for about the last 5 or so minutes. So we haven't really seen a full pull from these guys just yet. And it might take a whole other team fight before we actually get to that point, Mifflin.
Well, we'll see. Team fight started up. lestimics, the recipient of the damage, but Grasp of Death creates some space.
Quarter HP on him. Eagles rally, finds 2 in the backline, and Dark Pillars will slow everything down. Totti in the sky will not be able to save SAP7. He is the first casualty of the fight, but a double banish from Totti will keep things going for a while. Dazer transforms. MastkiII pulls in a few towards that pal out, but the rest of his team are just getting bullied by Dazer and Totti. Dazer gonna make their way back to base. MastkiII, maybe the saving grace for the Gladiators in that fight.
Yeah, MastkiII, I believe that was a 4-man pull, and then I'm looking at the relics of the Styx Ferrymen, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that's all of them. They still all have their beads, just about. Only BeAzrael missing out. lestimics has been able to reset, works his way back into the fight. Fire Giant still relatively healthy. The Styx Ferrymen dropping low.
MastkiII about halfway until his ultimate is back online. He's got that bump as he can get it online very quickly. A dive in on towards Rottwen, very low on the elephant. Not quite enough dot damage. lestimics misses the shot to get the killing blow. iceice sides one, but the Gladiators, Dazer able to steal away the Fire Giant. And lestimics just running as fast as he can away from iceice and StreakUp. But what a trade out through. Eagles rally. We'll get another kill for the Ferrymen. But at the end, the Gladiators able to sneak that Fire Giant away.
So Dazer gets to have an enhanced Fire Giant. Maybe not the ideal target, right? You want someone that can make use of the lack of backdoor protections. I mean, there won't be backdoor protections for Dazer, but he's still autoing for maybe like 30 or 40 onto a structure. That was actually TottiGR that steals away the objective. Walks in with the full pulse irradiate, does the entirety of it. Fire Giant still healthy enough. Coin tosses with the basic, confirms at 96 damage. Gotta think something anything really from the Styx Ferrymen is going to beat out 96 damage, but easy to get mixed up in an as action-packed a team fight as we just saw.
iceice to the back line, gets locked in the cage, but GunTTERR has the damage to close that one out. Dazer, the last person who had that fire giant buff, has now been taken off the map. The Styx Ferrymen with a bit of a delayed deicide up against the Gilded Gladiators. They take down the tier 1, they take out the tier 2, and will march their way in towards the mid-Phoenix.
Gladiators gotta put up some form of defense. Toddy wasn't ready for that Eagles rally, dropped to 50% before the fight even starts.
Gets up into the sky. Palau is good, but does not pull anybody inside this time around. Mid-Phoenix falls down. The Styx Ferrymen will back themselves up, losing out on a couple of sets of beads during that fight, or at least just StreakUp so he doesn't get pulled back into that Palau. Maybe a little bit of help taking down this Trebuchet as well, as that one was pushing alongside the pushing along with the Styx Ferrymen.
Tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, now dealt with. And that is a good show of how powerful and how important Fire Giant is to your actual siege. I'm looking at it, I'd completely forgotten that Fire Giant was stolen away. 5 versus 3, like 40 seconds synced death timers on SAP7 and Dazer. I'm thinking to myself, GG. But they can't do it without that Fire Giant buff, so even the 3-man core of the Gilded Gladiators is just enough to keep the Styx Ferrymen at bay. And that's all they do, because that Phoenix does fall down. Right side tier 2 tower shouldn't be too far behind it. The Styx Ferrymen playing with house money, 7,500 gold in the lead. Should be able to just keep up this pressure. Even if you do lose out on this siege, you're probably not losing the game off it. At most, you might lose a tier 2 tower to the Gilded Gladiators, so I think correct decision to the Styx Ferrymen if they are going to keep up their aggression. Or we could just see them spin their wheels for the next minute or so, 2 minutes until this Fire Giant respawns, and then start that neutral dance all over again. But this time, with a map state advantage to the Styx Ferrymen. That mid-Phoenix not coming back anytime soon.
Another Primal Fury going down. I'll add a little bit more gold over towards the Styx Ferrymen. So we approach 34 minutes in, nearly full build on just about everybody, so that gold meaning a little bit less and less as this game continues to go on. At this point, it's now just a couple of power potions, maybe an elixir if anybody has enough gold in hand to be able to do so, and finishing up some of those relics. We do see that GunTTERR is at that full build point, has all 6 of his items and both of his both of his relics fully upgraded. So GunTTERR about as powerful as he can be without buying a couple of consumables.
Lestimics and Azrael staring each other down. Styx Ferrymen starting to slowly work their way across that right side of the map. Will make eye contact with the tier 2 tower. Gilded Gladiators, where you at? Just Lestimics nearby should spell the end of this structure. Plenty of time for the Styx Ferrymen to reset afterward, pick up some wards, and then head towards that Fire Giant, so long as they can disengage cleanly. Dazer behind them would like to make it as unclean as possible.
Oh no, the cage hits GunTTERR. That's going to get the beads off the mid laner. Jump in by Dazer, or a sprint route right after. Will catch 3, but everybody's able to find their way out. And a lot of unhealthy members of the Styx Ferrymen on the retreat. Azrael and GunTTERR and Rottwen all down to half HP. Will have to go back towards base. They've got plenty of time to spare. This Fire Giant just now wearing off of the waste of what would have been anybody that did have it at that time. So another minute until that one comes back up. And imagine that's probably where the Gilded Gladiators will try and put their aggression. That mid-Phoenix, an easy one to defend when you got to deal with this Fire Giant.
Agreed, and now with an advantage in the team fight, the Gilded Gladiators take beads off of both Azrael and GunTTERR, so keep your eyes on MastkiI's cooldowns. That Palau could just straight up destroy this Tiamat. Only CC immunity when the quadrupedal stance, 20 seconds left on that cooldown. GunTTERR's gonna have to play very safe. Same with Azrael. We've seen now that TottiGR can make short work of just about anybody.
We can also see the damage output that Sap had. I mean, that was a single 2-ult combo that nearly TKO'd GunTTERR earlier on. Lestimics half HP himself. Very spread out fight by the Gladiators. They're trying to jump in from multiple different vantage points, but not finding success in any of them. Ultimate down from SAP7. That was the call for GunTTERR to go in. Sap will fall down. GunTTERR jukes out the ultimate from Lestimics, and a Dharmic Pillar to slow him down. He was rally finds 2. Azrael saves him for a little while, but Lestimics still able to pick up that kill. And now Lestimics versus StreakUp is going to go the way of StreakUp. Azrael against the rest of them will take down Toddy, and it's only Dazer left, and only for a moment's notice. As soon as he lands that draconic form, he goes down to iceice. A deicide for the Styx Ferrymen, and game 1 to the Chaos team.
The Gladiators just take that engagement way too split up, man. Why are you taking 2v2 in the center of the map, a 1v2 in the jungle, and a 2v1 at your own speed? It just feels like Had you grouped up and played together, maybe MastkiII would have had an opportunity to use that powwow. Maybe Totti could have applied that damage instead of just walking to the jungle, dying while trying to peel for his own team. In those exchanges, after you've done all that work defending around your tier 2 tower, and you have such an advantage in the team fight, why not just take the team fight? A strange decision at the tail end of that match.
Yeah, I mean, it really did feel like it was we need to cover all of our options, and they decided to take any entry into the jungle possible, but unfortunately they were all a little too spread out. The team fight and the game goes over to the Styx Ferrymen. We'll take it to a break. We'll get you guys set up for game number 2.
I wrap it, I bag it, I pack it for sale. Got feeling on speed out, hit me to chill. I give it a thrill, I put it on film. Facade get applaud, that ain't real. Come to my section and flex, we can tell. I got a show and she dipping them nails. I'm flipping my L's, I know they can tell. I did it too major, they hit me for favors. Been him since the cable was cut in the cradle. What's up, only right that I do it. Colossal until I'm a fall, so they want me to fail. Look, we prevail. Jump on your tail. Know that they talking, they telling them tales. Just know how to tell, that for the sale. Hey, they talk like they got it, but they need to stop it. I'm leading with logic, my heartbeat is frosted. I seen it, got optics I needed from Shawty. She mean with the top and it's obvious. They need him a target, I'm dodging their darts, make them reach for the stars. I'm dumping, I'm forcing the pun off the runs. I'm moving with caution, I'm saucing my nigga is nothing. From nothing to something they'll never be. Tycoon and I'm Jay with the thizzle face. I'm nothing my section has ever seen. Run the ice so I'm clutch, I don't need a screen. I'm Curry, I spit shit from 30 deep. Do the pin in the pad like it's surgery. She been curving you just to flirt with me. Totally tucked off, but the jewels out. I just sent her home with a full mouth. I'm a rare breed when the moon out. I'ma stop playing by the rules now. I been ran plays, need a new route. Queen said she needs space in a new house. Mom told me that she pray for the kid every day. No wonder I'm getting paid for the tunes now. If they ain't ass, bitch, I'm on the rail. I wrap it, I bag it, I pack it for sale. Got feeling on speed out, I hit me to chill. I give it a thrill, I put it on film. This facade get applaud, that ain't real. Come to my section and flex, we can tell. Really outside with it. Ride around with it. Ride around with it. Ride around with that.
Of small leads for the entirety of the way until we started getting towards that late game goes the way of the Styx Ferrymen in a very split up team fight at the very end of the game is where the Styx Ferrymen are able to finally find that deicide over the Gilded Gladiators. And Mifflin, it was a very close matchup throughout the majority of that one. We did have a Fire Giant steal by the Gilded Gladiators, which brought a little bit of intrigue to the fight, but even with that Fire Giant steal, the Gilded Gladiators didn't take out enough members of the Styx Ferrymen. They're able to keep pushing that lead. And now the Styx Ferrymen move themselves in one game advantage in the set.
And even with the Fire Giant steal, it's only one member that gets to benefit from it. Enhanced Fire Giant steal, by the way, but it was your support. That's a Fafnir, and he's not really doing a whole lot with it, especially if he dies 20 seconds afterward, and that's exactly what happened to the Gilded Gladiators. Games like this are incredibly difficult to break down because, as you said, the lead minimal at every single portion. Not for lack of trying. There was a good deal of action on the map, but before that 25 some odd minute mark, felt like the gold never really expanded past 2,000. The experience still remained in that 1,500 some odd range. So I think you have to evaluate which team was team fighting better. That handily went to the Styx Ferrymen. I feel like they were just grouping up, and we didn't see that from the Gilded Gladiators. And then which composition was better. That one's a little bit more nuanced of a conversation. I'd argue that the only issue I had with the Gilded Gladiators draft is the same issue I've had with the majority of drafts we've seen with Daji, which is, sure, she's got great CC, but someone's got to get rid of those beads first, or someone's got to make use of the beads that she gets rid of, and only having single target CC around her from this Fafnir off of 1 stun, 2 if you count the ultimate transformation, just not quite enough. So how many times did we see MastkiII go in with the ultimate, find a pull, or they're just beads out, or pull somebody in, they just didn't care because the damage output wasn't quite there. That Daji just did not work out for the Gladiators, and the Styx Ferrymen, when they grouped up as 5, everything worked out for them.
And essentially unchecked GunTTERR for the majority of the early game, and then once these late game team fights came through, the damage output of this Tiamat was just too much. I mean, Tiamat's not normally one to have a great time in the early game, usually takes those first couple of levels before she comes online, those first couple of items, actually I should say there, but from minute 1, GunTTERR really had control in that mid lane. There wasn't a whole lot that Sap was able to do. I mean, so far as it was, what, like a level 10 invade at the red buff that GunTTERR was able to pick up a solo kill and really get the ball rolling for himself. Was up, I think, like 4-1 versus 1-4 at one point.
Sir.
Not the best game out of Sap 7 as far as staying alive. Had decent damage output. We'll see if maybe that changes in game number 2. Picks and bans for the Gilded Gladiators, Styx Ferrymen ready to go. And as far as adaptations go, I really don't feel like there need to be any major change-ups. Maybe not letting the Nemesis go through. She is still kind of one of those top junglers, but I think you're also right to highlight the fact there was just nothing to really go around with this Daji.
Yeah, just any form of AoE, consistent CC, something Trelly's been saying a whole lot of. Linear engagement so important, I think really simplifies how you approach these team fights. Linear engage also can backfold and become just peel for your own team. Not a whole lot of facilitation for this Freya. You got coerce, the Freya's dealing more damage. She already dealt a whole lot of damage. She didn't really need all that help as far as DPS is concerned. She needed help with 3 or 4 people that were constantly diving her. So maybe something like a Geb or a Khepri if you want to go towards this Freya style composition. Maybe a more consistent early game pressure jungler, something that doesn't have to go towards that transcendence so early, so you can start rotating over towards this duo lane. Make sure your Freya is off to a hard start or a hot start. I'd argue neither one of these junglers made a single rotation over towards the duo lane. Felt like that was just a 1v1, at times a 2v2 if the support was sick of leeching mid. They just go leech one late wave and duo. But large sweeping changes, I suppose, should be the conversation around the Gilded Gladiators. The Styx Ferrymen, I mean, no complaints. Do it again, run it back.
Yeah, they can. They're going to at least run it back with the Jing way. Nemesis does go to the Gilded Gladiators. The bans, unchanged throughout. Same 6 that we saw in game number 1. The only difference in this game is that the Nemesis is on the opposite team this time around. And maybe a little bit of pressure over in the dual lane could go some way. Instead of a Fafnir first pick for the Gladiators, that now goes as a second pick for the Styx Ferrymen. So we are seeing this god kind of become the most popular support in the EU SCC region, as he's been making, I can't even say just EU, I think in SCC in general, Fafnir has been rising amongst the ranks as that top support.
Just a good initiator, good around that objective play, has decent self-sustain in the lane, so you're not so worried about trading your HP. You can use it more so just as a resource to get pressure. Fafnir is a good god, and in an auto attacker meta, a disarm always very nice. But when I see a Fafnir, Fafnir dictates a composition built around him. He's not like a Geb, he's not like a Khepri, he's not just plug and play, not like Yamoja. You need auto attackers, and you need somebody else to be able to shore up that lacking CC. Single target stuns in competitive Smite at the highest level or the SCC level, just not enough on their own. You need something else. Dazzling offensive, that's a bit of that something else I was asking for.
And the 5 games played, 100% win rate for Amaterasu in the EU SCC, so a good look for the Styx Ferrymen for themselves to maybe close out this second game potentially and kind of keep themselves locked in towards that top 4 spot. As the second wave of bans go through, it seems that everything is going to at least remain the same for the Styx Ferrymen. Merlin and Hell once again, the bans to target out that mid laner Sap, and this time Gilded Gladiators, they're going to ban away the Daji that they ran last time. They got the Nemesis, and they don't want to give that one over to the opposite side. And same with this Ratatosker. We've been seeing a little bit of Rat kind of popping his way up. We've seen a little bit of Jungle Rat. We saw, I think it was what, Crit Ratatosker come out of Scream in the SPL. Didn't work out so well once the late game came through. We've seen kind of more of the traditional hybrid style of Rat. We've also seen the Soul Lane Ratatosker, so gonna eat a ban this time around. But a pick that normally works so well for the Gilded Gladiators, Fenrir, going to be locked in over for the Styx Ferrymen this time.
And that Fenrir has just got to be going to the jungle, right? I mean, Amaterasu
I
more
hope
than likely slated for Soul Lane. Fafnir is a support. Fafnir might be one of the only gods in Smite that I'm not even willing to consider flex potential with. I don't want to see him anywhere else. That is a support
Arise,
god.
my child!
So, Fenrir in the jungle has got pretty poor matchup into some of these lanes. Chernobog can break that Brutalize by jumping on a wall. Bellona, if you're maxing out Unchained, or if you're maxing out Seething Howl, Disarm, going to find pretty decent value against anybody who's got a self-stim. Brutalize, again, not really great into a Sobek. Pluck stops that. Leap from Tiamat, both ways stops that. Decent into Nemesis, I suppose, but if you start channeling Brutalize, as long as you hold on to that shield, should be able to resustain throughout the majority of that as well. But Brutalize isn't why you pick Fenrir. It's Ragnarok. And you've got plenty of beads burning from Amaterasu, Fafnir, and even Poseidon. I feel like this Ragnarok should be able to find some value.
Gonna have some good follow-up there as well with the Poseidon. We'll see if the Styx Ferrymen can close this one out in 2, or the Gilded Gladiators gonna push us to a 3rd game. Big match, and especially a massive game on the line for the Gilded Gladiators, trying to push themselves out of that bottom 2 spot and keep themselves away from relegation. It's J-Mac, Mifflin, and Doug one more time in the EU SCC. And a couple of trade-offs have got. We've seen, was it 3 gods that were on the Gilded Gladiators side now go over to the that were on the Styx Ferrymen in last game, now come over to the Gilded Gladiators with that Bellona, Nemesis, and the Tiamat. And Tiamat, I mean, we've talked to death about how good Tiamat is with all the stuff she has into her kit. Fell off for a little bit of time at the early stages of Season 9. Now starting to see her rise back up amongst these mid laners in the SCC.
Yeah, I mean, Tiamat is just a bog standard mage, right? You've got a little bit of CC immunity at time, conditional in the quadrupedal stance. You've got good long-range artillery damage and CC. The Minotaur, incredibly strong. The stun from that second ability, very strong as well. But the weakness of Tiamat, and it's always been her weakness, is that early game presence. You need a couple of levels before that primordial onslaught can start clearing those waves. You need a couple of levels before your team fight or even your 2v2 or 3v3 is strong enough that you even want to play in the center of the map. So it's on the Styx Ferrymen to put the pressure on now.
Rottwen pops the shell as he got rooted in place by Totti after the pluck from Dazer. And we've been seeing a little bit more Sobek pop his way in, whether that go to the solo lane or to the support role. MastkiII being aggressive yet again against GunTTERR and iceice, pushing them both under the tier 1 tower. And that's some of the benefit that this Nemesis has. Decent clear in the jungle, decent clear up in the wave. Dazer waiting for yet another pluck, will not find it this time around, or at least holding on to it in case someone steps out of the tower.
Really good stun from Rottwen there. TottiGR had the combo set up on StreakUp, would have either forced the beads or forced 50% of his HP, but the stun comes through just in time to stop the Chernobog combo. Good presence from Rottwen, realizing his teammate needed him in that exchange. Taking a peek at the consumables as well. I did this both games now. But Hog picked up for Rottwen. You're already losing out on pressure in the lane. I'm thinking he should be able to confirm his next rotation of purple on his own.
We've been seeing a lot of that out of the supports where they pick up this Hog and then they typically will hold on to it until that second one, because we've been seeing a lot of pressure coming towards that second rotation of the buff. Speaking of second rotation of the back camps, MastkiII able to secure that one out. He does have that double dash to get out. Even BeAzrael rotating over just from the threat of this of MastkiII coming to this side of the map. Blue buff is already down, so not much for them to fight over on this right side any longer. Actually, nope, blue buff comes right back up, so maybe we see a rotation from the junglers who are just chasing each other throughout the jungle.
Yeah, iceice on the retreat, does not want to line up against MastkiII. Blue buff invade seems to have been unsuccessful. The Styx Ferrymen able to secure it for themselves. BeAzrael just has an easier time securing. You can silence out the bludgeon. You've got everything you really need to out-confirm a Bellona, especially once that Scourge has been used. Scourge going to be your best confirmation tool on a buff, but you need a couple of points in it first. So, a little while till lestimics able to go for that style of play again. Just with iceice being on that side of the map and distracting MastkiII, kind of confirms the blue buff over for the Styx Ferrymen. So I like that rotation. I would have preferred to have seen MastkiII kind of not take the bait and just go to the blue. If MastkiII's there's nothing BeAzrael can do about it.
At best, maybe iceice could have tried to go for a blue buff invade on the opposite side whenever everybody was on the top end of the map. Plucked by Dazer just to get Rottwen away, as the minion wave's got to be cleared up by StreakUp. Totti tried to go back to base, but Rottwen able to slow him down and make sure that he has to stay just a little bit longer. Transcendent start out of Totti, but StreakUp again going in towards this bow tree.
Yeah, that bow tree is just really good for early boxing matches, and now especially up against another physical hunter, so you're not really losing out on the sustained battle by rote, Freya having it built into her kit, and then great itemization towards it early on. It means that Icavale should find some additional value. And we've been seeing the Icavale and the Aussie and the Wind Demon style of build pretty popular recently. Seems like StreakUp really a practitioner of that line of play. Whereas TottiGR, on the other hand, Cowl into Transcendence, that's just a classic.
Well, double knockup. Toddy low, StreakUp dashes in. Good pluck by Dazer. Will throw StreakUp back, at least into the buff camp, and keep them away from his hunter. So Toddy will be safe for now. And I will say, Mifflin, it is a nice breath of fresh air seeing diversity amongst the hunter builds. It felt for such a long time we were seeing just the, what was it, Crusher, Aussie into Wind Demon for so long into the hunter. So seeing a little bit of movement around those builds has been a nice little breath.
Yeah, look, ever since the hunter builds found diversity, I stopped playing hunters. All right, I want to find the one build that works, and that's all I want to do. Blue buff invade attempted and successful for the Gilded Gladiators. lestimics wants some more. Dash good from BeAzrael to secure his life, but that was closer than I would have liked. You still have beads in BeAzrael. You still have ultimate. He didn't need either, but it was close.
Well, it was a single auto away that dash just got him past and able to get away from being body blocked by it. If lestimics would have sidestepped a unit more to the side, he probably would have caught that there and found a kill against BeAzrael. But no first blood now. Maybe one as iceice is trying to stick around by this speed buff. Ultimate comes out from Mast to slow him down just a little bit longer. MastkiII still chasing out, but blink by iceice will get him a little bit of extra distance. MastkiII waiting for his cooldowns to dash again, but I'm not sure he has the distance to close. Sap does, he rotates on over, backblast in.
Ooh.
The stun just off the mark, and a hammer by Rottwen will stop that fight.
Sap almost just perfectly styled on him. The back dash to get back into range, to play on tower. I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's sick. He read you like a book back to front, and then he just like whiffs his entire kit immediately afterwards. So unfortunate. Sap 7 with the right idea, maybe not the right execution. iceice able to survive, and speed buff not picked up by MastkiII. So that just despawns. iceice is being annoying in the jungle, finding some value.
Does hit level 5 during that at the least. Now going to his camps, picking up his speed and his back heartbeat. So maybe some pressure up onto the enemy team. But when you look down the board, 3 sets of beads onto MastkiII, Sap, and Toddy. So somebody to be able to at least force some beads away with this Ragnarok if he can find it. Or maybe GunTTeRR could have an ideal target with a Kraken since there are no Aegises picked up. And nothing out of Dazer, going for a very aggressive start, blink on the Sobek.
So if Dazer can close gap, can maybe make use of the lack of beads from iceice or Rottwen. Rottwen with the Aegis kind of built into his kit from Draconic Transformation. Probably not the greatest target, but still certainly able to get involved early on. Gauntlet of Thebes tells me that he isn't trying overly so to get involved. Dazer would like to stack that up first. BeAzrael rotating in pretty quickly. Golden Blade plus movement speed passive, making him very adept at maneuvering the map, and he's going to need it if he wants to get into this fight.
Dazer finds a good pluck on Rottwen. Sap returns some damage, but not quite enough to really threaten anybody. Throws out the Typhoon, and I'll chase Rottwen out and set up some space for these mid-heartbeat camps. iceice pushing up fairly aggressively. We'll spot MastkiII in the jungle and think twice of actually jumping into the middle of 3 people. Very spread out of the Styx Ferrymen in this mid 3v3. All of them waiting for an opportunity to find one person. Maybe it's MastkiII who starts this fight out, or maybe it's the one who the fight gets started on. Sap jumps over the Kraken. GunTTeRR uses beads a little bit late. And the damage from Sap and the rotation from Toddy will be enough to get first blood over to the Hunter of the Gilded Gladiators. GunTTeRR goes down. iceice at critical health. He'll be able to leap his way on out. But Rottwen with the D-transformation needs his jump to find a way out of the fight. 1-for-0
trade. I thought we'd see some more, but the Gilded Gladiators core kind of just allows iceice to walk through him. Everybody's staring at Rottwen, distracted by the massive dragon. Allows the limping dog to make his way back to base. Regardless, a 1-for-0 trade, something to be proud of. The Gilded Gladiators now got a pretty significant lead. They had been pulling that lead slowly by controlling those left and right mid camps. Greater Scorpions, for the most part, going their way as well. Now with First Blood bounty on top of it, starting to very quickly develop into a substantial separation insofar as Golden experience. It was in Game 1, around that 16-minute mark, we had seen the first Gold Fury / Pyro pull. We're about 8 minutes out. We're halfway there. If the pace continues, the Gilded Gladiators have a pretty nice lead by the time we get there.
Especially with iceice being half HP in this fight, could see Maybe some aggressive play over towards the blue buff yet again. It'll be a 3 versus 2 to try and steal this one out. And with Rottwen getting poked out, it could be even more advantageous for the Gladiators. lestimics now rotating over. Pluck does hit Rottwen. MastkiII not able to steal away that blue buff. Rottwen in danger, body blocked by MastkiII. Not quite enough damage and a dazzling offensive to chase out MastkiII. Ultimate is good to get some return fire towards BeAzrael. But with MastkiII so low, the fight for the Gilded Gladiators has ceased.
Yeah, GunTTeRR was playing inside of his tier 1 tower. Seems like he had wanted to make the rotation, but does not. Poseidon very quick on his feet, especially with Doom Orb in that first slot. Thought for certain we'd see some sort of punishment from that massive aggression from the Gilded Gladiators, essentially walking into the tier 2 tower, but not to be the case this time around. GunTTeRR been on the receiving end of that pressure, not willing to make the rotation and miss out on some of that wave. Styx Ferrymen not so far removed from this game that they can't fight back in. I'm keeping my eyes on the Kraken. I'm keeping my eyes on the Ragnarok. We've only seen Ragnarok connect once so far in 9.5 minutes. Not a great pace for iceice in game 2. But Bede's still off MastkiII for 30 seconds. Maybe iceice can utilize that window, try and set up for a return kill.
So far, Gilded Gladiators have only been able to amass about a 1k lead, half that coming from that first blood bounty, the rest of it just coming from some of the camp invades that we have seen come from the Gladiators, mostly around that blue buff pressure that's been established by lestimics and MastkiII earlier on. Hunters have been, once again, largely left alone in the dual lane. We'll see a slight rotation from iceice, but Toddy not going to bite the bait there. He'll back himself up towards the tower, maybe recognizing that something is here. iceice just playing peekaboo around the wall, seeing if Toddy spots him. Does not, so Toddy will just go over towards his purple buff for now, clear that one out. Should be fine from this rotation.
Man, these junglers have taken a very slow pace to just farming. Not often that junglers and supports are the same level, but they both are, just about. Both level 9 on the Gilded Gladiators, both level 8 on the Styx Ferrymen. Just a very slow-paced farm. Seems like iceice and MastkiII both are hesitant to soak up farm from these lanes. Instead, mostly just getting it from the jungle itself. Red buff invade attempted. Can the Gilded Gladiators pick it up and escape? Seems as if they've grabbed the red, and they've made out like bandits. Nothing the Styx Ferrymen can do to chase out from here.
Interesting to see, though, on the wards play chart. Something we don't look at very often, but MastkiII has invested a lot of his gold into wards, even holding 2. Had one in pocket earlier on, so being able to tie up with the enemy support this early on, not often that you see the junglers investing this much into their vision. Now, some of that could be the free ward that they are given, but even still, Gold Fury going to go over to Styx Ferrymen unless Toddy has something to do about it. iceice walks up, gets the beads away from Toddy, and the Kraken will secure the Gold Fury. And now the Styx Ferrymen are the ones trying to make their way out of this fight. MastkiII dives in against 4, but maybe not recognizing he's against 4. He's got some backup with Toddy. But that's not enough to really put that much threat on the Styx Ferrymen, especially with that shell coming out. Gilded Gladiators will retreat. Yeah,
nothing left in the tank for the Styx Ferrymen to punish MastkiII's rotation. Even just one stun from Rottwen likely would have cost the jungler his life, but everything used to confirm the Gold Fury means you got nothing left in the fight afterward. Gilded Gladiators putting a whole lot of pressure on this tier 1. GunTTeRR and iceice slowly working their way in. MastkiII dropped low, tower kept alive, but I think that could have happened just like a little bit sooner.
BeAzrael rotates in, gets the beads from MastkiII, but not much more beyond there. Tower hitting a little too hard for BeAzrael to keep that dive up. Sap returning some fire with that primordial onslaught, but not going to do a whole lot of damage to BeAzrael this early on. Typhoon sent out, just to disengage. MastkiII, calculated fight against the speed buff, wins that one out, keeps his life and his buff, and we'll just continue back towards his farm. I know that he knows how much damage he can take, but it scares me every time we look over and I see less than 100 HP on a jungler.
Nah, I'm chilling. I've been there, you know, I've seen this plenty of times, and MastkiII's done the exact same. iceice showing some presence. That's the way you punish it. Sure, you might win the fight to the blue buff, but a stiff breeze would knock you over, and that breeze could have been named iceice had lestimics not been there as well. Junglers and supports still at parity. Here, I just don't see farm like this very often, so keeping track of it. Either the supports are leeching too much or the junglers are farming too slow, but it's one of the two.
Not sure which of those two it is just yet. Zap will consume the red buff to leave an extra copy of it down on the ground. Dazer finds a plug against Rottwen. MastkiII finds some good damage, but Rottwen holding on to his leap until it's necessary to get out, and he'll have it to get back to the tier 1 tower. lestimics and BeAzrael in that right lane. It's Golden Blade versus Iqbal, and we've seen this kind of a stranger build path we saw from Deathwalker yesterday on this Bellona, where it was Berserkers, Iqbal, and then Hide of the Urchin into a Shogun's Kasari. So a little bit of it's slower before those protections come online, but just a boxing style of build more than anything.
J-Mac, we're 14 minutes in with exactly 1 kill, and it's been maybe 10 minutes since that kill. Who do you think dies next, and what time for it?
Gonna say Rottwen probably in the next 30 or so seconds, considering he used his leap to get in. Will use the transformation. Surrounded by 4, cracking its MastkiII. Maybe it'll be MastkiII who goes down first. He'll have the double dash to get on out, and Rottwen not fully punished for his aggressive dive into the middle of everybody. He'll find a path back on out. Walks up, finds the sun onto Dazer. Whirlpool is good, and with iceice rotating in, will be the end of the fight. Maybe I'm wrong on my call of who's gonna go down next.
Yeah, you were informed by the screen. Now that you don't have the misinformation and propaganda on your monitor, who do you think? Who you got?
You know what? I'm gonna throw iceice in that one. Just whenever he finally does make that jump in, try to get that Ragnarok,
okay,
will end up pulling a set of beads away, and then I don't know, maybe has some kind of return fire back through. Maybe I should have stuck with my guns of Rottwen, but he should still have that leap to get back out. He'll be fine. Back to the tower he will go. Guts will be there as his bodyguard this time around.
So you got iceice.
What do you got?
I'll take, I'll take lestimics, because that is a super greedy Bellona build. GunTTeRR force use the beads under his own tower. Iceice in, Zap 7 dropped low, but nobody willing to play that game of chicken. Just a disengage immediately afterward.
GunTTeRR no ult, so no Kraken available to try and punish MastkiII for diving up towards the tier 1 tower line. iceice will clear out the Chalice, get that Lost Knight offering for himself and the team. Nearly stacked up. 1 Trebuchet is out for the Styx Ferrymen. It hasn't been sent out just yet, still sitting on that left side of the map. And the second one, we'll put it in one of the opposite lanes instead, just based off the map state there. I didn't realize how low sap had been getting throughout all of this. Rottwen's really been putting some bullying on this mid laner.
How many deaths do you think they're going to be before the Fire Giant goes down? We're at 1 right now. I'm going to say we're going to have less than 4 total kills before the Fire Giant dies.
So considering that Hex Mambo won a game off of 6 kills total yesterday, and 4 of those came from the game-ending push,
yep,
I would say that we might only see another 1 or 2 deaths before Fire Giant actually gets pulled, and maybe those 1 or 2 in that fight are what's actually going to get it to go down. Okay.
So you're thinking anywhere between 1 and 5 total?
I'm thinking 4 to 5 deaths total across the board before the Fire Giant goes down. I'm looking at either like 1 to 4 or like 2 to 3 on the scoreboard.
All right, I'll go high then. I'll say there are going to be more deaths than that.
More than total of 5 before Fire Giant goes down.
I'll give you 4 to 7 as your window.
Okay.
I'll give you a nice window. I bet there's going to be at least 8 before the Fire Giant goes down.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
I've got no analysis or history to back that up. I mean, we're 16.5 minutes with only 1 kill. But considering how slowly both these teams played around objective in the previous match, I feel confident in my guess.
So 8 kills before Fire Giant. Now, is that Fire Giant pulled and goes down, or is that just an actual fight around the Fire Giant?
I'm thinking when Fire Giant like roars. You know that one where it like dies?
Right.
That.
Well, lestimics, you might have been right on your call. 4 people chasing him out. The Kraken will do it. So there's the 1 point for Mifflin on the guessing game. I might be the one to go next there. I was a little bit late on mine as iceice goes down to Totti. And a 4v3 in the mid lane. Now with 4, StreakUp joins the party a little bit late. Dazer in the middle of 4, trying to find a greedy pluck under the tower, but he is being punished heavily for it. Stun is good.
You're stuck.
And a little bit more damage. StreakUp takes down Dazer.
Styx Ferrymen get aggressive on lestimics and then chase out. Dazer tries to find a return, falls down. Now, can the Styx Ferrymen find a little bit more? Sap 7, no ultimate available, still incredibly low HP, hovering nearby. BeAzrael finds MastkiII in the jungle, but that might just be the end of it. MastkiII shouldn't be able to outpace BeAzrael as long as he's in that speed stance. Had to switch to power as he tried to finish off some of that burst, so MastkiII will be able to walk himself out of there. 4 kills now, 18 minutes in. Guess on the first death on the lestimics, correct? I might have the twofer here.
You just might. I was a few seconds late on my guess. Unfortunately, iceice came in a little bit too late into that fight to at least, well, go down from my guess at the very least. I don't know why I'm trying to play that one up more than anything. But
that's right.
I got 3 kills left until that Fire Giant roar before I'm 0 for 2 today, and that's not a great way to start my day. A good way to maybe start yours out there,
I'm
though,
loving
Mifflin.
I am loving it. And I'm thinking it's probably just likely, considering neither team has looked at the Fire Giant just yet. 18.5 minutes in. Gold, dead even. Wow, that is about as even as I've ever seen it. Experience.
Wow.
Yeah, sure. Like 1,500, but split 5 ways, 20 minutes into a game. Not even like a whole level per person. This is as close as it gets, man. It's all about relics. Relic advantage to the Ferryman right now. Spacing advantage as well. Dazer just probably shouldn't be up here.
Half HP. Kraken will seal the deal, and GunTTERR, credit to the kill there. All 5 of the Styx Ferrymen on the Primal Fury instead. MastkiII not willing to rotate in. Fury will go the way of the Styx Ferrymen. Rottwen will find lestimics now. He's able to dash away just before that whirlpool comes through, but a jump in by Rottwen. Finds the second stun. lestimics will have the Eagles rally to get out, but a dazzling offensive to chase down and at least give the Ferrymen some time to close the gap. lestimics low, and lestimics will not go down. The tidal wave just a little bit off the mark. SMITE and MastkiII trying to return that fire through, but it is 5 strong in the Ferrymen to walk out.
It's the exact same pacing as we saw in Game 1. Now that the team fights have started, every single time it's the Gilded Gladiators, 2 people here, 3 people here, and it's always a 5 stack of the Styx Ferrymen. They're always grouped together, ready to play off each other's CC. You gotta group up. You gotta be willing to match numbers if you want to win out in these team fights. The only way to beat that death ball is to either split the map, play around these structures, or match it with a death ball. So far, the Gilded Gladiators haven't been a death ball. They've been a conveyor belt of free kills.
So far, those kills have netted up to 3-2 for the Styx Ferrymen. Still no real significant lead. That Gold Fury didn't do a whole lot. And as well, as we see the Trebuchet pushed down to the Tier 1 tower over on the left-hand side, Tier 2 tower now under threat and has forced a rotation from Totti. And that's why I'm surprised Styx Ferrymen didn't try and really even tease the Fire Giant. They walked over, stood in the pin, went, oh, well, I guess we'll just take Pyromancer instead.
Yeah, they hit it and they're like, that's tanky.
That's a big Fire Giant. That guy does a lot of damage. He's got a lot of health.
You can summon meteors and lava pools. I'll take the Pyro instead.
Whatever it is, that line that he summons, that Aegis by Totti from 2 basics at a StreakUp.
I've never seen
crit
fear
respect.
like that. That is sheer fear. And like, the crit advantage is actually in TottiGR's favor right there. So it's just Wind Demon plus explosive bolts from StreakUp. Yeah, man.
That's what, like 40-45%?
Yeah, but you got like Fail Not and Atalanta's on the other side.
That equals out, doesn't it?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure.
Itemization advantage, you're both sitting at Silver Branch.
I guess technically StreakUp's crit hits a tad bit harder just because of the explosive bolts if he's got that up, but no Aegis for Totti in the next fight means that he will be susceptible to that Kraken. Ultimate in the backline by BeAzrael, finds a stun onto 2, Tier 1 tower. Should go down to the Ferryman unless there's a pushback from the Gilded Gladiators. BeAzrael in the backline. Slowed down. Kraken not going to find a target. GunTTERR low, but GunTTERR will sneak out until Dazer finds him in the backline. One more kill over to the Gilded Gladiators and a dash out by Dazer. Means it'll just be the 1 kill for the Gladiators.
MastkiII able to find that deep rotation into the backline. Just isolates GunTTERR, drops him low, and Dazer finishes him off with a sickening strike. I'm singing your praises, MastkiII. Stop going for these crazy rotations, my guy. Lose out on the beads, but maintain your life. Still a value trade to the Gilded Gladiators, but you didn't need to rotate in that way.
1 kill away, Mifflin. I'm 1 away from potentially going 0 for 2
you might
on
as
the
well
day
just
on
say
my
I'm right.
guesses. I'm not going to hold that one just yet. I'm not going to give you the you're right yet. You were right on the first one, but not just yet. Gilded Gladiators will push up the Trebuchet in the right lane and strip that one away from the Styx Ferrymen. iceice falling very low. Totti diving in aggressively will force both Ice and BeAzrael to walk away. Fire Giant now started by the Gilded Gladiators. Rottwen is nearby, full HP on him. StreakUp gets his dash out. MastkiII rotating around the backside of the fight. And Dazer playing goaltender around. And Eagles rally in. StreakUp, half HP, will use the airstrike to get on out. And it's 3 of the Styx Ferrymen being pushed back by the Gladiators. BeAzrael goes in with the dazzling offensive. Doesn't find a stun onto anybody, though. And now he's the one in danger.
GunTTERR and iceice making a very slow rotation, picking up some waves and some camps before they come to this team fight. Their team would love to have them nearby, though. Dazer finds the pluck, but Amaterasu's pretty tanky.
Immediately lurking in the waters. Totti gets hit by the Kraken. Half HP on the Chernobog, dives in on towards GunTTERR. And now with iceice rotating in, misses the Brutalize, but gets the pickup. GunTTERR takes down Dazer, and Totti will make it into the wall. Somehow the Hunter player able to make his way out for the Gilded Gladiators. And he can sustain off one of these camps. The rest of the Styx Ferrymen a little too low to continue this chase.
The Gilded Gladiators were feeling confident, trying to put some pressure around this Fire Giant onto the Styx Ferrymen, chasing into the Tier 2 tower, probably realizing that, hey, we could see GunTTeRR clearing those waves at mid. We know it's a numbers advantage, but eventually, because the fight goes so long, the Styx Ferrymen are able to rotate their way back forward. And even in spite of iceice actually missing his entire kit, still is able to survive and still come out ahead 1-0. That one being the support means that Dazer at level 15 is going to respawn pretty quickly. So do it all over again. Styx Ferrymen, the Gilded Gladiators, dead even once more.
Azrael tanking up the Fire Giant and losing about half his HP. Does not have a teleport, so has to rely on his own self-sustain at the way, but he's been met by lestimics, so most of that sustain will be mitigated out. A slow in from the shield bash, and Eagles rally. Just off the mark because the dash by Azrael. He'll have to go back to base and take the long walk back to rejoin his team, which only half of them have made their way towards the right side of the map. The other half split between the mid and the left jungle. So back to return state of even. I mean, only 1,000 gold separating the teams, 25 minutes in. This is an even smaller lead than what we saw in game number 1.
Just waiting for that one Fire Giant play to completely open up the doors to this match. That's all it's going to take to separate a win from a loss. Both the Gilded Gladiators and the Styx Ferrymen in a position where if they get the Fire Giant buff cleanly, can likely just completely dominate the rest of the map. As of now, it's the Styx Ferrymen getting aggressive around the Pyromancer, and they take it for themselves, pushing that slight gold lead to an even more significant slight gold lead in their favor. Fire Giant, the only thing that either of these teams need to concern themselves with, that is the only thing that can generate threat on the map, except for Toddy or iceice.
Ice goes in against Sap, and maybe a regretful decision. Toddy dives into the backline, gets a Draconic transformation out of Rottwen, but as soon as he gets out of that transformation, he is stuck, gets knocked up, able to leap over the jungle wall, but MastkiII finds a pick in the backline. iceice goes down. GunTTeRR now under fire. The airstrike from StreakUp to disengage, but lestimics is trying to find that last kill, but cannot. GunTTeRR able to sneak away, but Rottwen cannot take it down. And Azrael able to find one. A 2-for-1 trade for the Gilded Gladiators and a little bit further push under the tower.
Every single time the Gilded Gladiators find these slight advantages, they push them a bit further. iceice and Rottwen now dead. The Gilded Gladiators looking to finish off this Tier 2 tower. But what's the goal afterward? MastkiII had to fully reset, so it's a 3v3 here.
Dazer caught out in the whirlpool, does have the dash if he needs to get away. Sap dives into the backline against 3 and finds the kill against GunTTeRR. Now 6 kills for the Gilded Gladiators, 5 for the Ferrymen. 26 minutes in with that tower, the Gilded Gladiators have closed up the gold lead and we're right back to even.
How many total kills, J-Mac?
Well, there's 6 for the Gilded Gladiators, so
that's
6
right.
there, and then 5 for the Ferrymen.
That's 11.
That's 11. So what happens if the Fire Giant doesn't go down at all? Who wins then?
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
I'll give it to you if the Fire Giant doesn't go down at all. But it will. The Fire Giant will be dying, and that's it.
Are you sure?
100%.
100% sure.
Have you seen a European team win without the Fire Giant? I'm not sure I have.
Did it happen in yesterday's sets? The 20-minute gamers? Did it happen at all during those?
They had Fuego.
Did they?
They had the Fuego Grande, to be exact.
Fair enough. We'll see if one of these teams can pick up the Fire Giant. We'll see if one of these teams can win a team fight without only making it a 1-for-1 or a 1-for-2 trade. Fire Giant started by the Gladiators. MastkiII and lestimics doing a decent bit of damage to it. Dazer in the backline does get stunned. MastkiII will hold on to dealing the damage out there, but Hazer is half HP. Root thrown out by Toddy. Azrael uses his ult, but doesn't find anybody. He's down to half health himself, and Eagles rally in the backline, finds 2. And the Fire Giant will go down. Mifflin 2 for 2 today.
Woo!
The Gilded Gladiators will make out like bandits in the night, grab their full Fire Giant, and walk out.
And the Gladiators have got a good composition for Siege. Displacement from Dazer simplifies the engagement in these Tier 2s and Phoenixes. TottiGR playing a standard Hunter means that he could just make short work of these towers. Maybe slow, as the Styx Ferrymen have got some ways to create some space. Disarm from Rottwen could really slow you down. Azrael dazzling offensive as well. But hard to make an analysis on whether or not the Styx Ferrymen are actually going to show up in time. Gilded Gladiators already in the Phoenix.
Frenzy popped. The Lizards have joined in, but that's not going to help with the backdoor protections. Rottwen and Azrael, who's got a lot of health to this Tiamat. Now with an actual minion wave here, this Phoenix could go down swiftly if Toddy can get a couple of hits in, but Rottwen is soaking up most of the damage to Kraken. Will slam Dazer, and he'll be the first casualty. Phoenix does fall. But now in a 4v5 fight, the Styx Ferrymen want to push in. A stun gets the beats from Sap, and an Aegis as well. Sap walking back in, and GunTTERR picks up the double kill.
MastkiII on the retreat. Probably will not outrun GunTTERR, but will outgun GunTTERR if they meet up. MastkiII instead decides to disengage. Styx Ferrymen on the chase, however, they want more.
Totty uses the beads, uses the dash to get in the wall, but iceice will chase him out. That's now 3 for Styx Ferrymen, maybe a 4th, but just StreakUp here, so doubt there's any danger there. GunTTERR uses Aegis and zones back. MastkiII double kill for iceice.
Is that game?
A double kill from GunTTERR earlier on. 29 minutes in. I don't think so, Mifflin. 3 towers still standing and all Phoenixes. Styx Ferrymen might at least be able to get a tower and maybe a bird.
I'm thinking they should at least try and push down this tier 2. You're right, Phoenix maybe a bit of an overstay. They're still healthy though, the Styx Ferrymen. Ultimate up for BeAzrael. lestimics, no beads. Dazer has access to the ultimate, so CC won't connect. They're going for it.
Started up, lestimics the only one with Fire Giant buff. He's keeping back GunTTERR. A lot of damage through and will force the Eagles rally out of the solo laner. With that minion wave gone and sat back, this might be now a bad fight for the Styx Ferrymen. iceice low, Rottwen low, everybody starting to get low except for StreakUp. And he'll be able to at least bat back as much damage as he can. Everybody on the Styx Ferrymen on the run, no bird.
Totty.
For the Ferrymen, Rottwen pulled back. Forced into that Draconic transformation. Will he make it out as he lands? No, he will not. Totty puts it out of the Kraken into lestimics, but basically just tickles the solo laner at this point, and StreakUp loses out on his Aegis and his life.
A game of throws between these two teams, taking turns on the Phoenixes. This time it's the Styx Ferrymen who overstay their welcome. The Gilded Gladiators 5 strong with that rotation of TottiGR with the ultimate, able to crush 2, Rottwen and StreakUp, the dual lane removed. And now it's time yet again to crack the base. Right side Phoenix, successful removal. Mid Phoenix, the exact same. Only 3 members of the Styx Ferrymen standing between themselves in a game 3.
Trebuchet has made itself known for the fight. iceice does get plucked back by Dazer. 3 versus 5 at the Titan. iceice dives in and immediately uses Brutalize and his Ragnarok to try and get out. Question is, will he even try and pick somebody else up? It will be an attempt
Rottwen's
at
back.
Totty, but now with Rottwen back, BeAzrael low, but in the fountain healing back up. This 4v5 down turn to 3 as Sap finds the pick in the mid. Titan down to half HP, a jump in the backline by iceice on towards Totty. Totty gets into the wall, but the Titan doesn't have that same luxury. It goes down, and the Gilded Gladiators bring us to game 3.
30 minutes, 54 seconds, 18 kills, and with seeding on the line, both these teams just gunning for that 4 seed so they can move on to the next phase. They have to win this matchup. I think it's only right that it goes all the way.
And this is now 5 SCC sets in a row, Mifflin, that all of them go the full distance. We're hitting 15 games of SCC, and there's still another set to go tomorrow. But before we get to that one, before we can even move on the rest of the day, we got to get to game 3 coming up next.
I guess I'll be on my way now. You just give me a...
to the EU SCC. Game number 2 goes over to the Gilded Gladiators this time around to tie up our set and now push us into that third game and a very important game 3 on a very important set for these two teams. Styx Ferrymen currently sitting at that 4th seed. The Gilded Gladiators, if they can find this win, should be able to bump themselves up, keep themselves out of relegation, and move on towards the next phase of play. And the performance like they had in game number 2 could be poised to do that in game number 3. It's J-Mac and Mifflin joining me on the desk as we get set up to move into that final game. But back and forth battle again at the start, even closer margins than we had in game number 1, where it was 2,000 gold separating from game number 1 all the way up till 20-25 minutes. This time going in towards 2025, we had a 1K gold separation. And these fights around the Fire Giants, I mean, the Gilded Gladiators really able to step up and push this Ferryman out to find a win.
Another match where the early game might as well just go untalked about, right? Because the leads were insubstantial, the amount of kills pretty insubstantial. It all came down to objective play and siege potential. Both teams' attempt panic ends. Both teams crushed for it, but one of them was crushed last, so that's going to net you a dub for the Gilded Gladiators. I think this one comes down to one distinct difference in the team fight from the Gilded Gladiators, an adaptation they made roughly 25 minutes in. Every team fight before then was incredibly split. Every team fight after then, they kind of grouped up as 5. I suppose an enforced grouping of 5 when you're sieging a Phoenix or defending a Phoenix siege, you kind of don't really have the opportunity to split the map, but even with that said, once they were grouped, the fights were very clean. I think that both teams can be very confident with the draft that they had made. Both teams were in positions to find themselves wins or take winning lines. So game 3, I think we might just have more of the same of game 2.
Yeah, Sap able to reprise from his 1-7 or 1-8 game from game number 1, go 3-1-4 this time around. A couple of spills over onto Dazer, but as natural for the support, sometimes you end up being the sacrificial lamb. 41,000 player damage from Sap during that game. This Tiamat, man, coming back, and we're seeing why Tiamat was such a potent mage, even in Season 8. Didn't see her for a while in Season 9, but starting to see the light again, especially with these conduit gem buffs. The extra damage that you're able to get through the early game seems to really be assisting her with these early wave clears. But I think you're right to mention on earlier, I think it was in game number 1, how these junglers have not really been paying attention to the side lanes at all. It has been all mid lane focus. The junglers being a little bit far behind as far as their farm is concerned, or maybe it really was the supports just leeching a little bit extra. Yeah,
hard to say, right? But what I will say is, if Tiamat's going to have 2 performances like that back-to-back, maybe toss a ban that way.
Maybe so, or maybe try and pick it first for your team earlier on, because so far 2 Tiamat games, and both of them have been Tiamat wins. We'll see if that is the ongoing trend in game number 3. Styx Ferrymen and the Gilded Gladiators. This time it's the Ferrymen taking themselves for first pick up against the Gladiators, and we'll at least continue to hold true to the same bans they were running in those first games. Kali, the first one out.
Yeah, Kali, just one that has been very popular, has great late game scaling. If you watch the SPL, you know Scream's going to play it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's generally just Scream that's playing it. I think we saw it once or twice from Twig, but outside of that, that god has really just become a flavor pick, a back pocket pick for some of these high-level players. Not the case in the European SEC. That god is just really good. The most banned, actually, 81% of the time. I'm realizing now from this phenomenal graphic we've got on the center of your screen. But, like, why? Because their win rate isn't that high.
No, win rate might be high. Maybe it is just the fact that they know it's going to late game and they don't want to risk the late game carry being on the opposite side, though Styx Ferrymen are first pick, so maybe they could have just grabbed that for themselves, but Tiamat won't make it through. Instead, it'll be third ban by the Styx Ferrymen and then a Nemesis ban, so a couple of adaptations by these teams. Nemesis has been a winning factor on both, so has the Tiamat, so both those get taken away. As we jump into the first pick for the Styx Ferrymen, at least the Fafnir open. That's also been a consistent winning point for these teams. Well, let's see if that is the true winning condition for these teams.
Well, Fafnir locked in, so it seems the Styx Ferrymen are saying, yes, it's exactly that. This god is just incredibly good, and he is. But, like, first pick overall? Yamoja exists, man. I understand that like you don't like playing it, but she is just so good and such a high priority pick for a reason. Kepri's out there as well. Plenty of Guardians that I feel like it is strange to prioritize it that highly. If anything, I would have expected a Jing in that slot, considering the pacing of picks and bans in both previous games. The Gladiators, though, not concerned about that Jing lock-in. Instead, Bellona and Chernobog brought together. Chernobog showed it exactly once in the previous match. That global presence can win or lose you a team fight, and in the previous game actually won you the game. but I'd like to see it utilized a bit more around these Fire Giant dances. How long was the dance of the Fire Giant in the first game? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Game 2, the exact same. Imagine instead of having your Chernobog just kind of like standing nearby, like, hey, I'm gonna hit you with some auto attacks if you walk up. I'm gonna go hit some structures on the other side of the map, and if a fight starts, let me know. I'll jump into someone's shadow. That's what we see at the SPL level. That's what we see when Cyclone Spin's playing this god, and Cyclone Spin plays it a whole lot. Just not a whole lot of split pushing here in the EU SEC. Maybe they think it's cringe. I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they're allergic to split pushing in the EU SEC. Huang will get locked in along with the Jormungandr for Styx Ferrymen. And to go with the Chernobog, a little bit more physical damage. Muzinkov, who has been in those top 3 bans for these teams for the majority of these games, will now make his way over to the Gilded Gladiators. So a little bit of pressure over there in that mid lane to try and deal with what the Huang is capable of. We've seen too many First Bloods and too much pressure go to Huang in these first 3 levels, so we'll see if the Gilded Gladiators put a little bit of respect on that god as we jump into the bans. Daji eats a ban by the Gilded Gladiators, and interesting enough, Habwa eats a ban by the Styx Ferrymen. That's a god that we haven't seen in quite some time, usually out of the jungle. Maybe with the double hunter, this triple physical, maybe that's where they were thinking the Gilded Gladiators were going to go.
I mean, Habwa jungle is just fine. I feel like it's not bad whatsoever. Decent jungle clear. Not going to be able to keep pace with some of these other Golden Blade abuser junglers, but still has phenomenal scaling into the late game. Magical jungles, there are a couple that come to mind. Poseidon, one that we've seen a fair bit in the SPL, so still certainly an option for the Gladiators if they so choose. But I'm looking at this Styx Ferryman draft, and Jormungandr and Fafnir being your front line does not exactly inspire confidence in me. It's not a whole lot of CC, generally single target. Jormungandr, more so about that disruption and survivability in the lane, but why are you worried about survivability in the lane? We haven't seen junglers go over to solo outside of just a blue buff invade very often in this set. It is a high damage output composition now with Camazotz and Jing finishing out the draft. But as far as starting a fight is concerned, it's going to be pretty hard to do.
And Gilded Gladiators round out their comp with Kumbhakarna and Bakasura, which means that we're going to have a 4-Fizz with a lone Kumbhakarna as magical damage for the Gladiators. So very reliant on their physical DPS to try and burn through these objectives, burn through these gods in the team fight. They've at least got the stinger from Muzinkov to maybe help out a little bit with that. We'll see if the Gilded Gladiators can find the reverse sweep in this set and take game number 3. The Styx Ferrymen pull it back and hold on to their 4th seed. Let's jump right into game number 3, see what all breaks down. And I talked with Charlie a little bit about it yesterday, but kind of how do you feel about Bakasura in this current meta? I mean, he used to be that guy that was like the first 15 to 20 minute pub stomper, and late game kind of fell out. If you didn't get that lead, it felt like GG. You kind of feel he's in that same spot, Midland.
I mean, it depends. When Bakasura was the flavor of the week, it was a whole lot of just consistent damage builds. We were seeing executioners, stone cuttings, just the standard katana tree, and kin size. I think Bakasura is at his best with like a flaming blink and crit. If you're only going to be able to team fight and actually engage in the fight for, what is it, like 2 seconds of CC immunity on the ultimate, let's make sure during those 2 seconds we're doing maximum damage. I want a Deathbringer, I want a Wind Demon, and I want to see people die very quickly. So I think Bakasura can certainly still do that. I think he's going to get to that point of the game a little bit quicker than the majority of the rest of the Assassin cast, just by nature of having such quick jungle clear. But he is, in a term, high execution, in that it is hard to come by opportunities to actually utilize Bakasura, in spite of the fact that he is just like probably the easiest god to play in the game.
I mean, it's W left click when you get to team fights. You pressure 4, eat a minion maybe, but
it's similar to Hebo, right? Like, all of Hebo's abilities are super easy to hit, but like, he's hard to play because he's squishy and needs to play point blank.
We'll see exactly what goes down in game number 3 between them. Rottwen mezzed out. Pressure in the dual lane has gone over to the Gilded Gladiators for now, but some good return fire up on towards Totti. Make sure that Totti has to stay a little bit further back. Over into the mid lane, the 2v2. Not a whole lot of action to be seen, which is normally where we see the most action when you have a Huang on the map, at least in the first few minutes of play. But GunTTERR and iceice recognizing that pressure from Bakasura and an Muzinkov is going to mean that they don't really have too much fight to be had.
I don't know. If you just land the root onto a Muzinkov, Screech and a Vampiric Bats from iceice is going to do a whole lot of damage. So certainly high kill potential from both squads, probably higher than the team that's got Huang. Not a whole lot of lockdown for the Gilded Gladiators. So maybe missed opportunity to try and leverage some of that pressure, but doesn't super matter, as both of these teams have shown a propensity to look towards that late game team fight more often than not. Even with early picks or slight advantages, neither one of these teams has shown any inkling to moving in towards an objective pre-20 minutes. So just farming up, playing safe with as high stakes a game as this is, I can't argue against it.
Rottwen leaps in, finds the disarm against Totti, but the mez by Dazer, so not much more follow-up to be had in the duo lane. It's been, what, 8 and 9 minutes roughly before we see our first blood? Mifflin, I'll bring the question up to you. Who do you think's going down for first blood?
Who's going down for first blood? Likelihood pretty high for, I would argue, either MastkiII or SAP7. MastkiII from overextension, SAP7 because he's AMC in the early game. Otherwise, I might say StreakUp.
MastkiII gonna do what Bakasura does best and invade camps, take a buff away, has that eat minion available, and will leave the small minion there. Most toxic way that you can do that is to keep that camp. So he'll be able to get himself back to base and start working on his katana a little bit earlier on. Now the Styx Ferrymen, Rottwen trying to invade. There is no hog this time around. All you gotta do is body block the hammer. Mez is good. Hammer's been successfully body blocked. The Gilded Gladiators get their purple.
Hey, Rottwen could have committed the leap for an attempted steal. Probably would have just cost him his life, but he could have. Glad he didn't, but he could have. And that minus no one. So it's not just blocking the hammer. It's like, you know.
Majority blocking the hammer.
Yeah, well, it is, yeah.
What does this leap do at this level? Like 70 damage, maybe?
I saw a 90 damage Freya auto attack steal a fire giant earlier today.
Crazier things have happened in SMITE. We've seen what was it, like a 12-tick Rising Dawn steal an objective too.
That was inbound, wasn't it? Yeah.
I want to say, inbound has stolen so many objectives with like low damage abilities on Guardians. I think he stole one with the Rising Dawn, and he also stole one with Atlas Ultimate as well, which hits for like 80 damage even on the actual like shot that goes out. It's crazy.
Yeah, we should ask Gore about it. Lowest damage objective steals in the SPL.
It's just got to be that Rising Dawn.
And there's literally no way he's tracking that, right? Like, I get that he's the stat guy, but he's not got all of them.
And I can't think of anything that would hit weaker than Kempri's 2 to steal it away. StreakUp, with no ultimate available, will likely go down for first blood. A dash in by Totti will secure the deal. And a little bit speedier this time around, the Gilded Gladiators get on the board.
Wait, I got it.
You did.
Oh my God. You are 3 for 3 today.
3.
Wow, that's awesome.
4 for 4 if we count the bumper guess that you got off screen.
Yeah, but that's off screen, so that's not a part of the canon. Look, StreakUp just playing a little bit too far up there has to realize that TottiGR has the ability to rotate back in towards lane. Just does not realize that Dazer is hiding in that little side jungle pocket. So easy epic uppercut and a shadow jump, and that is first blood over to the Gilded Gladiators. And the Gilded Gladiators with this composition need to maintain that pace. You got 4 Fizz. You probably want to win out before some physical defense gets picked up.
MastkiII will be able to at least secure that red buff for his team. Rottwen a little bit too late on being able to get that hammer out there. Did get body blocked once again. And I will say it was a mistake. It wasn't the Fafnir that was the one winning condition there. It was actually the Bellona that consistently made it across the board that found some wins. So not looking too hopeful for the Ferrymen if they're going based off of just at least the Fafnir win con rate for themselves. But
yeah, Fafnir's lost both games.
Yeah, he has.
But they really think he's like good. Like they first picked him like 3 games.
Dang, maybe it's like the Hazer tweet about the Mercury, because after that tweet by Hazer talking about how bad Mercury is, we haven't seen a whole lot of Mercury, and he hasn't been winning a whole lot since that point either.
God, Hazer just saves SMITE. Hazer is gonna save SMITE. I'm waiting on the Fafnir's bad tweet, and I'm waiting on like the ESET ADC is bad tweet, and then SMITE's fixed.
And then we'll have successfully. We also need the Nox support is bad, but we have the stats to prove otherwise.
No, Jake's not falling for it.
Jake's not buying into that propaganda. He is gonna make sure that he lets the world know that Nox support is good. And he's been letting it know that it has been good so far for his team. We even saw yesterday do pretty good for Privative, so definitely one that's going to be sticking around for a while. But with that first blood, the Gladiators have been able to amass themselves about an 800 or so gold lead. Maybe a little bit more if they can find anything on towards Rottwen. 1,500 experience, maybe the more impressive stat there this early on.
Yeah, experience is the more important of the two at this portion of the game. And seeing where that experience lies is very important. About 1 level for TottiGR and ADC. And that's about it. Maybe half level here or there for individual members of the Gilded Gladiators. But having Totti already with his Transcendent stacking up, massive.
MastkiII eats a lot of damage. The Dueling Dragons don't get the push onto MastkiII, but maybe the Bat Out of Hell will needs one more hit, but can't find him. Maybe Rottwen's the saving grace. No, he's not. The leap is off the mark. A blink out by MastkiII. Rottwen, moments away from his D-transform, gets thrown up into the sky. Sap 7's got some good damage, but the shell, make sure that Rottwen has enough HP to live through. A double meds at a Dazer will disengage the fight.
Good wherewithal for MastkiII, has Blink, so no beads, but needs to immune the pull-in from GunTTERR. Dedicates Regurgitate on his feet, CC immunity for a brief window. Does take the damage from Dueling Dragons, but does not eat the pool. So, MastkiII able to survive narrowly. But I said it earlier, narrow escapes and just surviving is not the goal of the Gilded Gladiators. They need to establish a lead throughout the early. Realize that they do have some defense shred from AMC, but not enough to make up for your only magic damage being Dazer.
Yes, double root. Rottwen holding on to his leap, finds a hammer on MastkiII, half HP on him, as he ate the damage from the Phoenix Flame from GunTTERR. Red buff invade will not go the way of the Gilded Gladiators. Styx Ferrymen able to secure that one for themselves. iceice, even being the nice jungler and holding on to the mid wave for GunTTERR. We've been seeing a lot of leeching from the junglers in this mid wave at the very least, but at least in this game, the junglers are kind of back at the farming pace that we are more accustomed to.
Yeah, for reference, in Game 2, it was 10 or 11 minutes in, both junglers sitting at around level 8 parity with their supports. Now 8 minutes in, already at level 8 for both these junglers, and well, unfortunately for Rottwen, a significant disadvantage, 2 levels down on Dazer, about a level and a half now as he has ticked to level 7. But you're right to say, the junglers doing a much better job farming up this time around, making sure that they are maintaining pace with each other and the rest of the carries on the team. But still, Sap 7 finding a way to establish a lead over GunTTERR. Toddy holds on to his in the dual lane, nearly done stacking up this Transcendence as well. StreakUp in the past has gone towards Aussie in second slot, which will continue to give advantage over to Toddy, who will just have way more damage to play with at this portion of the game, if that is the build path that StreakUp elects to go for again in Game 3. And the pace having stagnated, sure, might reflect properly for the Gilded Gladiators on the top of your screen, but again, you gotta be concerned about that late game team fight. The Styx Ferrymen have just got a standard composition, as opposed to this very high execution composition from the Gilded Gladiators.
Dazer just being as annoying as possible on this Kumbhakarna, stops the back from the mid laner for a moment, and then just stands there and throws a nice little taunt at the tier 1 tower. The trebuchet that was being pushed up by the Gladiators will be left, at least for iceice and GunTTERR to deal with. Not going to get any real value there. Instead, Rottwen caught out, hit by the Stinger. Sap will be able to pick that one up. Dueling Dragons will hit Sap, and very low, quarter HP on the AMC, avoids the leap. But with StreakUp here and the airstrike available, that'll be a kill. Going over to the Styx Ferrymen, Dazer now caught out the leap. The double stun good from Rottwen. iceice can put in some damage with that mez from Dazer. Will slow down the fight inside the jungle. MastkiII pushes up a little bit in mid, but jumps back to farming up in the jungle.
So 1-1 across the top, still 1,000 gold between these two teams. D-transformation from Rottwen has got Dazer applying some CC. MastkiII nearby has got the cripple available, but will not use it. Rottwen able to work his way out of there with ease. I suppose GunTTERR nearby, enough to dissuade MastkiII from sticking around in that engagement. Take a peek at some of these builds, largely standard across the board. Maybe the only strangeness, iceice going towards that throwing dagger in second slot. Will get some CDR, some power as he finishes up that item. Otherwise, largely the same. MastkiII actually going towards Balance Blade. That's slightly off kilter. Generally, it's Stone Cutting Sword in that second slot. Could be Xe, could be Kin Size. Up against a Jormungandr, maybe you go Kin Size here?
I'm trying to also think, have we seen a Warlock staff from any of these mid laners just yet? It might be one of the first sets where the mid laners haven't gone towards one. Sap obviously in this game can't, but with 5 mages that have come across the board in these 3 games, I don't think I've seen a single one picked up just yet.
Hey, who wants power, HP, penetration? Like that's all terrible stats. And so we're gonna forego it. No Warlock staff this time around. It's a slow pickup. But if a slow game, and it should be a slow game, the answer for the Styx Ferrymen would fit him well.
Sap can be bailed out by Dazer with the epic uppercut. iceice goes in, Dueling Dragons will pull Sap back into the fight once again, forced to have to deal with this assassin, forced to deal with the mage. iceice finds the last auto after and picks up a second kill for the Styx Ferrymen. lot of aggression by the Gladiators, but they're just not finding anything from it. Dazer gets knocked out by BeAzrael, surrounded by 4, and should fall into the Sleepy Time passive, but barely managed to squeak out thanks to the help of lestimics.
But the Styx Ferrymen, so significantly grouped, can likely put pressure onto the tower or rotate towards an objective. SAP7 dead for 10 seconds. The only one who's taken any damage is Rottwen. Would love to see either a Gold Fury, a Pyro, or a Tier 1 tower looked at by the Styx Ferrymen. Instead, Oracle's gonna get slammed. It just feels like a very needlessly slow pace at that exchange, considering how healthy they are, all the cooldowns they still have, Draconic Transformation still up, World Serpent still up, SAP7 just respawning. The other members of the Gilded Gladiators were TKO'd, MastkiII forced back to base. You had a lot of time there to play with.
Could have done Pyromancer at the very least. That's been teased by the Gladiators at least for a moment before Azrael spotted over, at least by the totem. So Styx Ferrymen with their 2 kills, still down just a little bit in gold. Gilded Gladiators maintaining that lead that they had started earlier on, but it's not much of a lead, very insignificant at only 1,000 gold this earlier on. Starting to see at least the gold pacing of game number 2 there. But the 3K experience for the Gladiators might be the more significant aspect. I say that, but it's kind of just evenly dispersed across the board. I mean, 1 level in the support, barely a half a level in the solo lane, and then half level anywhere else where it may be.
So the Gilded Gladiators still in a good spot, advantageous to be sure, but have to be concerned about some of the build pacing of the Styx Ferrymen. Helmet now, finisher Azrael, he's becoming very tanky. Rottwen's Sovereignty immediately into Witchblade, double physical defense stack up, plus removing some of that auto attack speed from a triple or quadruple auto attacker composition on the Gilded Gladiators. Happy to see this. Pyromancer pulled out. Rottwen pokes his head into the right side jungle, communicated by Dazer, so the Gilded Gladiators reset the objective themselves. I'm keeping my eyes on them. The Gladiators are they have the onus. They need to be the ones setting the pace, and so far they've done a good job of it. They're picking the aggression, they're playing all over the map, they're getting a significant experience lead, but that gold has just been cut.
Every single time, though, that these team fights have broke out, Gladiators have expended 2 ultimates onto Rottwen, who's now got the double fizz defense, so that Stinger not really hitting very hard from Sap.
Need it for the defense shred, though.
It needs it for the shred, of course, but there's just been no follow-up beyond there. It's just been Stinger, and then Rottwen lands, says, okay, that's cool. Now that my team is here, the real fight can begin. Rottwen will eat the Dazer, but that's all that he's going to take there, be able to jump himself right away.
Yeah, Rottwen just felt so validated in his double physical pickup, because what is that? Groggy Strike plus Epic Uppercut. That's all the magic damage the Gilded Gladiators have got.
10%?
And it wasn't even 10%. iceice on the defense. Has to get in there to stop the Pyro.
iceice here. Stole that away? What did he manage to sneak one between 3 players to find that kill? Bat out of hell. Now to chase down SAP7. Aegis will be used in a World Serpent in response. iceice will pay for his sins of walking too far in enemy territory. Rottwen, rooted out, will de-transform. Needs the dragon jump to get on out. Will find it. And a collapse on in. Rottwen so low and still managing to live through. Jukes away from the bludgeon.
Surely not.
Still not enough damage to take him down. This double physical defense is enough to keep the Fafnir alive.
Rottwen just walks out. I mean, one for one trade, actually. SAP7 caught on his own. GunTTeRR now in some trouble, might get dove. Rottwen rotates back through, slams lestimics with a hammer, and just simply walks away. The Styx Ferrymen, 1-for-1 trade, steal the Pyromancer as well, and could be looking for some more. Tough break for the Gilded Gladiators, who really needed that objective.
One of iceice's even still, it had to have been the screech of the bats that snuck its way between 3 different players to find that Pyromancer. Evens up the gold pretty closely, back down to only 300 now between them. Close up some of that XP gap that wasn't overly large there. iceice with a game, not really a game saving, but at least a lead saving play there, and then a 1-for-1 trade out. Should have only been the 0-for-1, but Azrael left to have a solo 1v1 battle against SAP7, and well, Sap's losing that when it's a double fizz defense, also on your Jormungandr.
Yeah, Chronos Pendant as well, so those CVs incredibly low already. Penetration, the name of the game for the Gilded Gladiators, and they're building a good deal of it. Looks like Crusher immediately into Titan's Bane for SAP7. Kin size is the pickup for MastkiII, so these HP stacks from the Styx Ferrymen only to give you higher yellow numbers with that kin size. Otherwise, Crit from Totti should be contended with pretty easily. Spectral already finished for Azrael. Styx Ferrymen, again, their draft is much easier to perform on because they've got physical and magical damage. The Gilded Gladiators, it's all about target selection, chaining CC, and making sure that whoever eats Stinger dies quick, because you need that Stinger back. And I'm talking like SMITE needs to pick it back up, too. Can't just kill one person with it, because he is the majority of the kill potential for the Gilded Gladiators. Very difficult to play around. So generally, compositions like this bring a very quick early pace to the game. But we're 17.5 minutes in, and the Gilded Gladiators have only got 2 kills, and the objectives they've looked at have been stolen. So, difficult to play this composition from this point. Maybe a singular pick into a Hail Mary Fire Giant will keep you afloat in this game. I know that if you're just evaluating the stats on your screen, you probably shouldn't be in panic mode. But if I'm the Gilded Gladiators, players or coach, I'm in panic mode right now.
Buff successfully secured by the Styx Ferrymen. lestimics being chased out by iceice, but iceice is only level 14 to level 17 Bellona. Even 2 levels down towards MastkiII has just been doing a good job of farming. But BeAzrael is fine at farming. That's the name of the game with that kind of a god. You go in, you invade a couple of camps, you deny farm to the enemy. We just haven't really seen the fight out of him yet. Can we actually get a look at the player damage charts? I'm curious as to how involved MastkiII has been in the fights. Whew. Bottom of the chart.
Took you a second to find him, huh?
Rottwen. I had to double check. I knew he wasn't gonna be too high up because he has what 0-0-1. I think he was gonna be down at the bottom.
Just has not been fighting is the answer. BeAzrael very good at clearing the jungle, and he's done so adeptly. Has established himself a significant lead, but it's exactly what I was talking about. High execution in that. Are you really willing to walk in up against this composition? BeAzrael engaged straight up doesn't work against Huang. Rottwen, not a great target. StreakUp, airstrike available for the most part. iceice, bat out of hell. Azrael, World Serpent. If it's all about that initial engagement for MastkiII, he's got to wait for the Gilded Gladiators, the other 4 members, to set something up. Because every single member of the Styx Ferrymen has just got answers to BeAzrael's kit.
For now, the Styx Ferrymen get some wards around the Fire Giant. Azrael will go down into the water to lurk away from Dazer. That's going to be the end over there. Gold Fury pulled by the Ferryman. It's got to be known now. It'll be known in just a moment as it gets taken away. It's now 5 versus 1. Azrael has got to do a lot to stop this Fire Giant from going down, or maybe even steal it away. A little too late to get the kill on it. So it will go to the Gilded Gladiators, but now they're returning from the rest of the Ferrymen. Knockup doesn't find anybody that's around, but Rottwen does find one. D transforms in, and the rest of the Ferrymen on the run to try and get towards this tower. But the Gilded Gladiators, they got the Fire Giant. Every single one of them can make it back to base.
Great play from the Gilded Gladiators, just realizing their opportunity to look towards that Fire Giant, and no hesitation. That has been one of the main Achilles heels of the Gilded Gladiators in the past. Oh, Azrael's here. We're not coin tossing. We're not coming into the Fire Giant. You have to in that situation. Losing the Gold Fury and then resetting with this style of composition is a major losing line. So even in just leaving it up to a coin toss, getting that Fire Giant for yourself, massive. And now you can actually look at the team fight.
Pyromancer goes down. Rottwen nearly as well. Bludgeon will get rid of the rest of the shield. Airstrike gets StreakUp out. Eagles Rally finds Rottwen. The crystal over the wall from Totti will secure the kill. 1 now for the Gilded Gladiators in the fight. The rest of the Styx Ferrymen have now made their way out. It's secured speed buff for iceice, and all 5 of the Gilded Gladiators, the Fire Giant, can now push up the mid lane.
Take down that tier 1. You got your minion wave with you. Go for the tier 2 as well. Just GunTTERR in range to defend. As of now, Azrael joining up. Not a whole lot of damage in the structure just yet. SMITE finally starting to connect some of that damage, not before Dazer dropped down to just around 10% HP. That should be the end of this siege from the Gilded Gladiators. Head back to base, spend the gold from the fight, as well as taking down that tier 1, regroup, try and do it all over again. And this is a good composition from the Gladiators to siege the structures in particular. Maybe not the best at separating the team fight, but if you are given the space to hit a tower, it'll go down quick between Totti and Sap.
iceice meets lestimics, and Dazer in the jungle, hit by the epic uppercut. Totti on the tail end of receiving, try and get that kill. And wow, sneaks a big crit in the middle of all of that one. iceice goes down to 3 inside of the jungle. But that was 2 ultimates expended to get the kill on that Camazotz. Won't have them for the next team fight, but Probably don't need it. Left side seems to be the target for the Gladiators. They'll push out tier 1. Likely not much answer back for tier 2 either.
Gilded Gladiators maintaining their siege. Tier 2 tower looked at. Rottwen, the only one in range. 2 in the jungle. Will rejoin their allies shortly. Will the Styx Ferrymen commit here?
Dueling Dragons used by GunTTERR, but he's being batted down by lestimics in the backline. Gets some support, but Rottwen's the one who needed it. Toddy finds a second pick during all of this fighting. iceice back up in 7 seconds, so it's only 3 to defend against this Phoenix. The Gilded Gladiators without a minion wave, unlikely to continue this push through. Will be met with a 4th now that iceice has returned. World Serpent up by BeAzrael to zone out the team fight. Does find some good damage on Dazer, puts him in the sleepy time, past him, but not enough auto attacks in from StreakUp just yet. He has finally been left alone. The Kumbhakarna goes down, and the fight after is going handedly to the Styx Ferrymen. A couple of big crits from StreakUp will put critical HPs on the rest, and Akam is good. One more hit from StreakUp or iceice will be enough to take down Toddy. And now it's the Gilded Gladiators on the run. lestimics, half HP, jukes out the Vampire Bats, and no further follow-up from the Ferrymen.
Ugly, ugly siege from the Gilded Gladiators. Dazer takes like 90% of his HP from the Phoenix itself. Sure, it's one proc of World Serpent that keeps him there for the last shot, but you gotta think the chase down is there. MastkiII could have been with his team, but instead tries to split push the right side Phoenix, teleport in from BeAzrael, make sure that that's stopped in its tracks. And that's it. That's your Fire Giant siege. It's gone. 10 seconds left on the power play. You've taken out plenty of the towers themselves. And how the fight had started, you'd really think that would favor the Gilded Gladiators, but being so split on the map and with Dazer losing so much to PvE makes an easy turnaround for the Styx Ferrymen. Luckily, the Gilded Gladiators had done such a good job pushing up the rest of the map that the Ferrymen really can't do much with this advantage, not even able to take out this tier 1 tower on the left-hand side. So where does that leave us? Gold, just about equal. Experience, just about equal. Fire Giant spawning in 40 seconds. Wards in pocket for both teams. 3 sentries per team. Ready to be dropped around the structure. As far as vision on the actual objective, actually slight advantage to the Styx Ferrymen as it stands. The Gilded Gladiators, they've got to do it all over again.
This time, maybe a little bit more cleanly, if they can try and find a Phoenix, if they manage to at least win out on the team fight. But it doesn't seem that the fight is around the Fire Giant. What about the Gold Fury side of the map? Dazer needs a good bit of poke from GunTTERR and StreakUp. We're starting to see what kind of damage output this Huang has now that he has hit level 20, has a few items online. lestimics walks up, takes a hammer, but fairly tanky on this Bellona. That Spectral Armor putting in work to keep back the crits. The Gladiators will just quietly take the Oni Fury away. Styx Ferrymen have expended a lot of their ultimates, or I should just say the one Draconic Transformation to chase out, but they won't find anything.
See, that was the concern that we had during P's and B's for the Ferrymen. Even in those situations, the Gilded Gladiators, just by showing up to the Fire Giant first, have such an advantage because the initiation of the Styx Ferrymen is just about completely dependent on whether or not Rottwen is in the Draconic Transformation. If he's not, your stuns are single target. And there's really no way for you to close that gap easily. Azrael's got, sure, a knock-up, but that's about it from him as far as initiation is concerned. The Styx Ferrymen need the defensive positioning.
Zap a little bit late to the team fight. The Pyromancer started by the Styx Ferrymen. Styx Ferrymen will be able to grab the objective, and they'll have to reset themselves at least a little bit. Rottwen going back to base. I think he got spotted by a couple of different players. He didn't actually manage to make his way back just yet. It'll be StreakUp, the first one back. Fire Giant started by the Gilded Gladiators, down half HP already. And a little bit of a late rotation in by the Styx Ferrymen to slow this one down. The Frenzy has been popped. The Fire Giant will go down to the Gladiators again. And iceice died to the bees up in the sky. World Serpent to try and just get out for BeAzrael. But it's Rottwen who goes down. It's a 3v5 defense now for the Styx Ferrymen. GunTTERR being pushed away by lestimics. Not much more that Ferrymen can do to hold back.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 2 times, I'm not going to put the blame on you, right? That is twice now the Styx Ferrymen in one game just weren't there for the Fire Giant defense.
And now for the Phoenix defense, it's pretty good by the Ferrymen. StreakUp able to put some good crit damage out and keep Dazer and lestimics away. And once again, the Ferrymen have repelled the Gladiators at another bird. Sap has been left alone in the mid lane. BeAzrael has made his rotation over to deal with this AMC, but with both MastkiII and Sap, that's not enough defense from the lone Jormungandr and he doesn't have his ult. He might just go down in the 2v1. The Sting was expended. The Dueling Dragons come out, but not going to find anything. 2 birds now for the Gilded Gladiators.
StreakUp survives. Lucky that he was not hit by a crit there, Totti. Unlucky that he doesn't find it. Had they got that pick, the Gilded Gladiators could have likely continued their siege. Yet again, Fire Giant on 5 members. This time, 2 Phoenixes already removed. MastkiII better not fall down here. Could cost his team mightily in their ability to chase out and finish off this left side Phoenix. Regurgitate expended properly. Don't want to die by any scenario. So, lose the ultimate, maintain your life. StreakUp still on the chase. Might be able to find him again, not this time. Styx Ferrymen very far up.
Lestimics stunned by Rottwen. A root onto Dazer. A decent bit of poke. Coming from GunTTeRR, now has his Gem of Focus online to start upgrade. Has been available to the mid laner. And we see that GunTTRR's able to put out a lot of damage, but Styx Ferrymen have just not been able to secure quite enough of these kills. They've been putting so many targets low. We saw, what was it, 2 of them at like 15% HP on that right side Phoenix, just 1 crit away from StreakUp, from maybe being able to get into that fight. Have we really seen a true 5v5 fight from these teams just yet?
I mean, the closest we've seen was on some of these Phoenixes, but even then, that wasn't a true 5-stack. Fire Giant both times just taken by the Gladiators because there are 5 there, and the Styx Ferrymen kind of walk in 1 by 1. Yeah, maybe not a true 5-on-5. Only one thing to defend left for the Styx Ferrymen, so you got to believe if a 5-on-5 were to happen, probably be on this left Phoenix.
Separated for now is BeAzrael, but he's got World Serpent to close that gap as quickly as need be. Rottwen jumps in, gets rooted, even takes quite a bit of damage from these double hunters. And the sprint route comes out to lock him in place, take him down. Epic uppercut onto GunTTRR, and to the backline goes MastkiII, biting away at GunTTRR. It's a double kill for SAP7. BeAzrael barely gets up into that World Serpent. iceice used the bat out of hell early to try and get through. Eagles rally on towards StreakUp, gets the last of the ultimates out, and the Gilded Gladiators can close this one out. Totti finds another pick, the Titan down to a quarter health, and the Gilded Gladiators with a 3rd kill on the SAP at the end of the game close out the set with a 2-1 and put the Styx Ferrymen in dangerous territory for relegation.
Took the last 2 team fights for the Gilded Gladiators to get MastkiII involved. Finally jumps both the supports in damage output, but this game, make no mistake, was won off the back of just superior objective presence. I wouldn't even say objective play or map play. I mean, that is what it was, but one team was at the Fire Giant, the other one just wasn't, and the team that was there got it both times.
Got it both times, and got him for free the very first time. I mean, it was a Gold Fury call by the Styx Ferrymen. The Gladiators said, okay, well, while you do that and you only have a single person here, we'll take the Fire Giant. They did so, and they decided to do it again when nobody, again, was around by the Styx Ferrymen. Only the frontliners there, and they just didn't quite have enough damage. So 2 Fire Giants, and then a push at the end of the game. Gilded Gladiators able to come out with the win, and a big one, very necessary against Styx Ferrymen.
Yeah, that is a game that is explicitly just won by those structures. Teamfight presence, I suppose, at times just were heavily favoring the Gladiators, specifically situations like that. Rottwen had Shell, by the way, in that situation. Rottwen had Ultimate, by the way. It doesn't use either one, instead holds on to it. So team fights were hard to come by in Game 3. And no 5-on-5 engagements for the majority of the match. The only one that we really got to see was on that left side Phoenix, which was very quickly won by the Gilded Gladiators. But the pacing of this game, I thought, was favoring Styx Ferrymen all the way through. Quadra physical composition. First team fight really doesn't even happen until 20 minutes in. As you can see, 5 kills total, favoring the Styx Ferrymen at this point. But it was the Gilded Gladiators who off before that clip had just taken Fire Giant, while the Ferrymen lose the plot and get a Gold Fury for themselves.
And it just felt like every time that Rottwen was coming out of these Draconic transformations, there was, again, another knock-up, or in these cases, a stinger met every single time by SAP7 to lock him down. He's not able to jump away. He's not able to find any kind of path out. All the kills for the Gilded Gladiators end up at least on SAP7. 5 kills to him, although
he went
I don't
nuts.
think that was indicative of the total out there. Somebody else had to have gotten killed. There's no way he was the only one.
That guy goes crazy.
No, I know Totti got one at the end of the game. I remember seeing his name pop up there, but 22,000 damage for SAP, 20,000 damage for Rottwen. An impressive game across the board for the Gilded Gladiators. They make this quadra-physical composition work out for them, and they find themselves a 2-1 win over the Styx Ferrymen to close out their second phase of the SCC.
Impressive stuff, but their phase does not end here. You still got to earn your spot. You still got to make it forward. Sure, you're top 4, but you earned your spot. Now you gotta play around it.
Definitely got to continue fighting for that position there. Make sure that you can maintain that as it continues to go through for the phase. Continue to make sure you can hold that through the remainder. A bit of schedule swappings that have come around for both these teams. Or not schedule swapping, member swappings for their teams. A couple of players traded in and out on there. So the Gladiators stumbled a bit in the early stage of the phase, but now find their footing. We'll take a look at the schedule, because if you're just now tuning in, you've missed the rest of the EUSCC. All 3 sets go the full distance. It's the Ravens, Hex Mambo, and the Gilded Gladiators that come out on top with 2-1s for themselves. And made some fun shakeups around the standings at the least. If I'm not mistaken, Highland Ravens get to end out with a 3rd seed after their win with the Wargs. And probably the most impressive turnarounds have been the Aru Scorpions, a team that was at the bottom of the standings last time. All of their shakeups have put them up to that 3rd place standings. My mistake, it's the Ravens at 2nd seed at the end of the day there. Hex Mambo make an impressive run from, I think, 4th now up to 1st seed for themselves. Maybe the Niflheim Wargs falling from grace at the end. What was the #1 seed in phase #1 drops to the very bottom in this second half.
On winning, by the way. That 0 is not
Yeah.
a typo. They just have not had a great phase so far. Phase 2, not kind to the Niflheim Wargs. So your top 4, Hex Mambo, the Ravens, the Scorpions, and the Gilded Gladiators should be able to move on to the next phase. Impressive stuff to them. Love to watch them. The EUSCC, very distinct in their styling, one that you have to keep your eyes on. I've had the opportunity to talk to the North American SCC teams, the SBL teams as well, and they say, look, the EUSCC is just an enigma. They're playing their own game, and it makes it very difficult to line up directly against them, which is always the joy of watching when they can come out and compete against people from across the pond.
I mean, they're playing so many different gods, so many different play styles, in so many different ways. You never know what's going on over in the EUSCC. And that's all that we've got for the EUSCC. We've got the SPL that's going to be coming up next, right after this break.